Okay. Hello, viewers. Welcome to another podcast for the Live Long podcast. We're joined by Vigorous Steve for the second
guys.
I'm very happy to have Vigorous Steve here. If you guys haven't seen the first podcast, it was excellent. We got cut off because we talked for about 2 hours and we didn't get into any of the meat of it. So hopefully Steve will be a reoccurring guest so we can talk every so often. So how are you doing, Steve?
Yeah, so far so good. Actually, I'm fasting this time. So we completely forgot to mention that last time, right? Because you like to fast, I like to fast. So I'm now 5 days in. And as you see, I'm still cognitive. so that's something we should definitely talk about this time. Yeah, but so far so good, man. I'm deloading and fasting at the same time. And, you know, the first block of the off season. So my calories were pretty high and training intensity was high. So it's time to take a break.
Well, let's talk a little bit about fasting now, because to my knowledge, Steve, you're the only bodybuilding coach that uses, I don't know of anyone else that uses at least extended fast. I don't know anyone.
No, not many. I know that John Meadows incorporates it sometimes, like a 1 day fast or a 2 day fast, and it might be during prep or off season, you know, and a lot of guys, because of the backlash, you know, people are like, oh, it's so catabolic. People don't talk about it, but it's more guys than you think, because I get all the messages, right? And you get the messages of guys that do fast frequently. And I have guys that are like 250, 270 pounds that do it like every 3 months, you know, like every quarter, a week, a whole week fasting, maybe because of my incentive or what you're putting online, or because of the, you know, the videos from Dr. Jason Fung, you know, who's a very big proponent of fasting. And so I get these messages quite regularly, but these guys, they just don't talk about it because of, you go so catabolic.
Actually, you know? It's funny you mentioned that. Just today, I received a comment on one of my interview clips from the Delray Misfits. A gentleman was saying, apparently in the clip, I had said that I don't lift weights anymore, but when I do my 5 day fast, I do lift weights only during that time period.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the reason why I do this is because, you know, obviously, as you know, the body needs to use some kind of proteins, right? But we have different kinds of proteins in our body. Sometimes bodybuilders, they don't realize that it's not just muscle. You have extra skin, you have...
right.
Right? So I feel like if you lift, for someone who doesn't lift weights like myself anymore, if you lift weights during that time, you actually give the body a stimulus not to burn that muscle, and instead use alternative parts of your body. So, but interesting thing, so this gentleman, he commented on my video, and I know you, when you get annoying comments, sometimes you just say, I'm not dealing with this. But I got a comment, he said, like, did I hear you say that you, I don't know what he said, did I hear you say that you lift weights? He misunderstood something, but he was trying to be funny. I said, no, I lift weights during the fast only. Then he said, okay, I can see this reasoning makes sense, but probably because you don't have much muscle or something like that, or you're not. But
a little stab, you know, a little. Get the knife out. And this is what the common field does, and this is what people try to do, you know, online.
What they don't understand is it's like actually I responded to him saying it seems that thank you for your very knowledgeable comment. You seem very educated on the subject, because really what they don't understand is that the truth is, I don't have much muscle. I was over 240 before. I was 210 at good body fat level. I probably he doesn't have much muscle himself.
Freaky strong. So
but that's not the important point. It's not about ego. It's just that I know how muscle works. Even though I have a little bit of muscle now, I know that I don't lose much muscle during those fasts. It's not much that I have, but it's surprising. What people don't realize is there's a change in the nervous tone. You know, I'm sure you feel that as well. It's not like going on a calorie deficit. You probably lose less muscle than on a calorie deficit. What do you think?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, so your metabolic rate goes up, right, during a fast. A lot of people don't understand this. I have blood work. I'm doing blood work before and after this time, but I didn't check my thyroid levels because I already know that it always goes up with 5 or 10%. You know, your TSH, free T3, free T4, and all those thyroid markers, they all go up. So what I do is I schedule a fast around the deload. So I'm basically in an overtrained state, and then you have to catch up on the, you know, the recovery. So your protein synthesis is elevated for the next 5 days. So that's why I don't train, because I train so hard 5 to 8 weeks prior. And then when I fast, I catch up on recovery. So what happens is the autophagy, right? So you lose, you know, the old cells, they get recycled, and you lose a little bit of protein in that process. Then by deloading and being in an overtrained state, or slightly, your protein synthesis is still increased, and you catch you catch all this old protein from the dead cells, after the second or third day when the autophagy start happening, you catch all this old protein, and you take old protein from dead cells and you put it into the muscle cell. And you can do it the opposite way, like what you're doing. You're sending a signal for protein synthesis. And this way you don't go catabolic, because the muscle cells that are still active and being utilized, and you're being stimulated, they take the protein from the autophagy cells away. And that's how you stay big. That's why people don't understand it. But as long as your protein synthesis is somewhat stimulated, whether that's by training during a fast or from being overtrained, and you have 5 or 7 days more of protein synthesis on the way, because the muscle cells just late on recovery, it just takes all the old protein from the the cells that got autophagy, and it's I don't lose any size. I'm 106 kilos after 5 days of fasting.
Wow.
225. It's.
Your approach is extremely reasonable as well. It's a totally different way of looking at it for a bodybuilder. Yeah. It's really reasonable. And you know what I wish? I wish you would go on RX Muscle and talk about fasting, because it's different than coming from somebody that's mostly into longevity like myself. But speaking about a bodybuilder who's health conscious, because truly fasting is the antidote to many of the problems that come with bodybuilding. It's a perfect
So what happens is with me, my blood work, all my markers improve, right? So my CPK goes down maybe 50%, creatine, phosphate, ketones. My creatinine goes down. My liver enzymes go down. My lipids improve. And I'm deloading. I'm speeding up the deload process, and I'm doing a mini diet. So I got my insulin sensitivity goes up. My deload is going up, and all the dead old cells are getting, through the autophagy, they're gone. So now I recover better. My red blood cell count goes back into range, because the old red blood cells get eaten away through autophagy. Okay, I recycle a little bit of the serum iron, right, and the ferritin, but I eat a pescatarian diet. I don't have so much beef in my diet, so my iron levels are always in range. So whenever I do a fast, I check my CBC, my serum iron, my ferritin levels, see where they're at. Okay, if they're at the top, right, I know that I'm going to recycle the iron from the hemoglobin and the red blood cells into the serum iron and the ferritin. But in this case, it's just in the middle of the range. So I have a buffer where the iron can go, and then these markers don't go up. So my hematocrit, hemoglobin, and red blood cell count goes down, and the iron gets recycled in the ferritin. And liver enzymes go down, and everything gets better. It's like a 3-month off compressed in a week, and you just have to suffer through the no eating. And people are just so freaking scared to do it.
And it gets easier every time you do it. Less hungry, your brain works better, right? Do you notice that?
Right. Yeah, it's the ketones, right? You get such into deep ketosis. Okay, I'm cheating a little bit with pharmacology.
But still, you get more adapted. Like, I don't know if you noticed, by the 4th or 5th time you do a 5-day fast. Like the first time I did it, my brain was really not functioning well. I was doing 1 week at that time. It was not functioning well. Now, even on the 5th day, I can do consultations. I do my strategy work. It's fine. Now
it's easy, man. I have no idea how many times I've done it so far, but I've been doing it for years now, every 3 months at least. And now I'm doing it a little bit more often because I feel good and I get a lot more work done. So now it's super easy, and I'm always in ketosis, right? So I'm already fat adapted by the time I go into the fast. Okay, Sunday I eat garbage and pizzas and hamburgers and cheat food.
You're already in ketosis beforehand, because you eat basically pescatarian and not too high protein, I guess.
Well, it's pretty high protein. It's 400 grams. Yeah, it's my BUN is in range, guys. My blood urea nitrogen is at the top of the range, so it's in range. So I'm not eating too much protein.
Okay. Oh, that's much easier than if you're already in ketosis.
Yeah, no, it makes it much easier. So when I start Monday, by Monday afternoon, I'm in ketosis, and my ketone meter is telling me, you're already at, where you need to be. And then over the course of a couple of weeks, it goes, pretty high. But I use a little bit of Lantus to keep the blood sugar down,
Well, I got to ask you about that in a little bit. I like that, your protocol. But I got to make clear to the audience also, don't you notice that the blood markers or the biomarkers that you see improve, there's a lag, they stay improved for a few weeks afterwards, right?
Usually I check my blood work markers after, right before, or sometimes before, but usually after. So sometimes I do a comparison, but always after the fast. But then I don't check my blood work markers for maybe 2 months. So I don't notice if they stay in range better. I used to go like every month, you know, when I was running experiments and, you know, high dosages of testosterone to see if my blood workers would still stay in range. And yeah, they would stay in range longer. But now I don't really go that often anymore because I know exactly how my body's going to respond.
Yeah.
You know, but it does help because you're cleaning out all the toxins, and as long as you get a little bit of fiber in, you know, because your bile acid need to, you know, go through the intestinal tract, and otherwise it gets reabsorbed if you don't eat anything. So I still have a little bit of psyllium husk and maybe a cucumber, you know, if I feel like yesterday evening I felt like, oh. So I had a cucumber. Yeah, and you detox a little bit easier that way because you have some volume in your stomach that allows for the bile acid to be detoxified. Otherwise, it just gets reabsorbed, right? In what is that called?
But it's not so dangerous for the bile acid not to get. It's not. I mean, are you talking about getting rid of cholesterol?
The cholesterol and the liver enzymes and whatever gets detoxified into the bile acid. You know, it's. I mean, I'm 105 kilos, and you know, all this lactic acid and these waste products. Because when I feel detrained, you know, you're saturated with waste products, right? And I want to just get rid of that as fast as possible. So I'm drinking a ton of water. My sodium intake is very, very high. And then I take a little bit of fiber to prevent the reabsorption of the bile acids, which have, you know, some of the toxins that I'm trying to get rid of.
That's interesting. So, that makes sense. But I've never, the other, anyway, this is a great topic. I mean, the main point though, also interestingly, is this cellular targeted cell death, not just autophagy, but like you said, the killing of damaged cells in the body, which for a bodybuilder, if I was a bodybuilder, and even before, because I was using growth hormone also, that would be my biggest concern. Somebody today was asking me a question on one of my YouTube videos. I don't remember the details, but basically it was saying, actually it was asking about NAC. He was saying, I heard somewhere that N-acetylcysteine could prevent cell apoptosis, which may be dangerous because you could accumulate some of these damaged cells over time. And
because you increase your glutathione levels, right?
Right. So donate cysteine to the glutathione, but actually his idea wasn't completely crazy because there is this idea that some antioxidants could lead, a lot of antioxidants use could lead to cancer. So for example, vitamin E has been correlated to increased cancer incidence, right?
Oh, really? What is the dose of that? Because I do take my vitamin E every day.
I know you do, yeah. Vitamin E is the only one of the major vitamins that's consistently been related to lung cancer as well as
really?
Cancer. Yeah, but
this might have to lower my dose then.
Vitamin E is one of the only vitamins that I don't intentionally take. But you know, it's controversial because it does lower oxidate. It fights against reactive oxygen species. And for example, it can improve. Actually, not skin cancer, but it has some benefits. But
there's a little bit of blood thinning effect also. So it prevents the formation of clots, which of course you're going to be careful for as a bodybuilder because your hematocrit is high, and in some cases your platelets are high too.
I didn't know that.
You always have to find a balance, you know, with this stuff. Like you take vitamin K, which takes calcium out of the blood and prevents coronary artery plaque buildup and the metabolism, right? But it also promotes clot formation or clotting factor. And then you take vitamin E to bring the clotting factor. There's so much going on in our bodies. And, I think in 10 years.
Not many people know about that, vitamin K with the clotting. Not many people know.
So my platelets are like always in range, but how powerful my platelets are, I mean, I take a lot of vitamin K, but I also take a decent amount of vitamin E. So hopefully that will balance itself out. But so far, my complete blood, I haven't donated in years, man.
Okay, we're going to talk about, I want to ask you about donations, actually. I forgot to write that down because I have an idea about that. But what I was going to say is this. So the bodybuilders over time, if you're constantly raising mTOR and you're never shutting it down and you're constantly eating protein, your body can't get into that state where it's doing targeted cell death, where it's trying to kill these cells. So the fast is your only real opportunity to do that if you're always poor. So it's which is why I respect your approach so much.
Thank you. Yeah. So I tried to do it with myself, and some of my clients are open to it because not everybody's open to it, right? Every 3 months, and I just noticed a tremendous amount of benefits, and and it put some hair in your chest as well because the perseverance that you require to finish a week fast. If you want to know, like for the audience, if you want to know if you're mentally capable of doing a contest prep, fast for a week. If you can't make it for a week, you're not suitable to do a contest prep. And I've done this with many of the beginner clients, right? They want to, Steve, I want to do a contest prep. I said, okay, stop eating for a week, show me your blood work. And then, I made it only 3 days. Okay, well, you're not suitable for contest prep then.
That's a
You
great thing.
can't, yeah, you don't have the balls, because the last 6 weeks is just going to feel as lethargic, as moody, as tired, and, as deprived as you do on a fast. But that's going to be 6 weeks versus 1 week.
So you bring up an interesting thing before we get to the phlebotomies. I'm curious about, so I was watching an interview of yours today with Dan, the bodybuilder in Thailand, which I never
Oh,
saw.
that's an old one. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
an old
old
one.
one. And
Which is the one that we did for the steroids podcast, or the one where we talked about training mostly?
I think it was a short one. He was like in a restaurant and he was just asking, I think maybe the first one you ever did. He was
Oh yeah, I think we did a couple together. Yeah.
But it was nice because I actually never realized that you're not personally, although you train obviously people for competition, including your wife and including your client, and you're very adept at that. But you personally just like to be muscular and fit and have a low body fat. You're a bodybuilder, but you're not interested in competition personally.
No, not really. I mean, a lot of people think you need to compete, right, to be a bodybuilder, but I don't see the correlation. I mean, if you enjoy training, enjoy eating healthy, enjoy doing your blood work, which is rare but not impossible, and you like to train for fun, and so I consider my body to be a result of training. I don't train to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And of course, I adapt my training to make the physique complete. But if for whatever reason, I can't be big anymore. Okay, I'll still train, but I'll do something else. I'll do swimming or walking, or I'll stay physically active, but I'll still work out, but maybe not for the purpose of being big, or the being big part is a result of me training this intensely, because I enjoy training balls to the wall, and I did as a natural, and I always wondered, like, why the hell am I not recovering? So you have to really adapt your training protocol to that. Because when you're exposed to the Dorian Yates DVD or VHS, when you're 15, 6 months into the gym, somebody gives you the blood and guts, and you're like, okay, I have to train like this because that's how you get big. And you don't know anything about steroids. You start training like that, but you have no steroids in your system, and don't have the food in your system either. Yeah, you kind of overtrain really, really fast, But I do enjoy training like that. So.
That's true. You can't do that kind of training without androgens. In fact, when I was young, I was very lucky because I was always interested in strength. So as a teenager, at the same age as you're describing, I was doing West Side Barbell. I was lucky to use the internet well and find West Side Barbells.
Yeah, right.
But if I did try to do what Dorian was, it would not have worked without androgens. Actually.
No,
and a lot
it worked up until. Yeah, it worked up until a certain point, and then of course, after 4 weeks, you're completely broken, and then you're like, man, I can't sustain this, and nobody else is training like this, so maybe I should try the Arnold protocol. And do you do like, push-pull legs? Basically, you split like Arnold, but twice a week with 1,000,000 sets, and that didn't work either. So you have to go through the grinder and figure out what works. Because 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet, right, or not as much information.
How often do you do deloads? By the way, not many bodybuilders do that.
I think every 6 to 8 weeks now.
Interesting.
Yeah. I reached that point very fast, and it's kind of sucks. I think I'm getting older.
So you always train for failure in your at high volume or at high weight?
High weight, low volume. Yeah, and I am getting more and more selective on how I schedule my training and how I program it and how I build up to my working sets. And because I know if I do too many sets, I just reach overtraining faster, and then I need to deload faster. So this time I was really grinding for 6 weeks. And then, last Sunday, I was like, man, I'm broken. I'm going to take a week off.
Now, I hear you talk about, do you supplement iron also?
No.
No, okay, good. But I hear you talk about the iron a lot, and I understand its importance it gives a lot of vitality and stuff like that. But I personally recently got into doing phlebotomies. I was just scheduling my next appointment today.
Okay.
Because it seems, I came across a couple of articles that obviously this is not very well-grounded, but there's some speculation that iron levels may be correlated to a couple of disease symptoms, including cancer, which was surprising to me, as well as not liver disease. So liver disease for sure, because of the iron accumulation in the liver itself seems to be negative. Yeah. And so as well as a third disease, like I'm not thinking of Alzheimer's disease, neurodegenerative diseases. So recently I was always trying to eat a low iron diet, but it's hard for me because I eat liver. I like to eat.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of iron and a lot of vitamin A also. Yeah.
So that's why I've been donating blood recently. Now, for you're eating a lot of fish.
Fish and eggs right now. Yeah, I was off the eggs for about a year because I had a food intolerance. And eggs always, the first problem that people get with food is eggs because of the food industry. So you take them out for a while and you can eat them for a while and you have to take them out for a while. It's annoying. But eggs are tasty, so you end up, eating 10 whole eggs or 10 eggs per day. 10 egg whites and 2, 3, 4, 5 whole eggs. It's it's a lot, but it's a good source of protein.
How do you feel the food intolerance? How do you notice it?
You just notice indigestion, and acid reflux and gas, and then And if the problem is it happens like a few hours later, right? So you have your eggs in the morning, and then at 4 o'clock you get indigestion. Is that the meal that you had at 3 o'clock, or is it the eggs that you had in the morning? But it's usually the egg. So that's like the first thing we take out. So yeah, beef is only in the weekend. Usually comes in the form of a steak or a hamburger.
So what's the sandwich you have? You say you have the same cheat meal every weekend.
I'm a very boring guy. I wear the same clothes, and I have the same hairstyle, and I go for the same sandwiches every weekend. Because they're good, and like in Asia, everything is like, it's a little bit bastardized. The food is a little bit bad or Asianized. So it's finding an honest meal, like an honest Western meal, is difficult. So when you do find one that's fairly priced, because there's plenty of places where you can get a great meal, but it's triple the price. So I don't want to spend that much money on food. I'm already spending a ton of food or money on food during the week. So we go to the sandwich place, and it's just every Sunday we go there for lunch. And we've been going there for a year straight. So it's like, every weekend, 54 weekends that we've been going there. And we've got the only membership card that restaurant has. We just go there, eat the same. Yeah, we just go there, eat the same food because it's good. And, the value for money is great. And it never tastes old, and then sometimes you go to another place, you have another sandwich, you're like, man, it's not as good as my favorite Lucky 13,
Yeah, exactly. My wife gets tired of me because I'm so disciplined and doing the same thing I can eat the same salad every day and the same meal.
Right.
But it's much more useful when you're a bodybuilder because that's really getting you to your goals. I guess for me it is also just for health reasons. But what I want to ask you about is, are you personally concerned about the mercury from the fish that you eat?
There's, as soon as you start, I did a little video about this, about the supplements, right? That people dive in too much, and you can dive into anything. Like I've talked with Derek from Replace More Days, and he asked me, "Are you worried about the carnitine and the TMAO?" Right, and then the nitrates, you're scared for the amines, the combined. The more you dive into it, the more scared you get, and the more opportunity you find not to do anything. To the point you get paralysis by analysis, and then you don't do anything. Yeah, you can dive into everything, and it just makes you more confused. And at one point I said, you know what, I know a lot, and knowing more is just going to take me away from my goals, because I can really the mercury, right? I eat sea bass and salmon. Now both are wild caught, so I spend a gazillion amount of dollars on this food. And the eggs, that's also free range, but it's how much it's really free range in Thailand, I'm not really sure. Yeah, and I worry, you eat beef, you have to worry, and bacon, and you're worried about the nitrates and the TMAOs, and then you're worried about the mercury, and then and the pesticides and the antibiotics, and we're going to die anyway. Let me do this. So
this will be funny.
We're going to die. Yeah.
Let me do this. This will be funny. So, truly, if you want to be paralyzed by analysis, you can even see this in a basic setting, not even in supplements, just by macros. So, number one, protein, kidney disease, as well as cellular aging. For sure, there's a lot of research. Number two, we're going to, actually, let's do carbs first. Number two, carbs. Now, in one way, they say simple carbs can increase the small LDL particle count, so you can get more small LDL and get atherosclerosis, but also you can get diabetes. And also, it can cause early aging of the brain. And
liver damage.
Ketogenic diets maintain the
liver damage.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Now we go into fats. Now this is even more. I got it. It's funny. So saturated fat. Okay, heart disease, LDL, cholesterol. You're screwed. Now what about polyunsaturated fats? Now there's another group of people. Most famous guy doing this is Ray Peat, which say that the polyunsaturated fats, including omega-3s, are more susceptible to being oxidized and therefore can promote cancers in the body. So You literally have no food group. Oh, and if you want vegetables, just forget about carbs. Vegetables in general, as Steve just said, you have nitrites, which will 5% of them convert to sorry, you have nitrates, which 5% will convert to nitrites. So you can eat nothing.
Just fast. And you got about 3 months left on this fast, as long as you drink water, which this water also has plastics, right? So it's the plastics that's leaking into the water, and the aluminium also in this water can give you cancer. You know, when you're showering, all the aluminium in the water, you know, and the metals, they will vaporize, and you will breathe them in, and you'll get lung cancer. So no more showering. You can drink water, but it has to come from a glass bottle that you use reverse osmosis by yourself. In your, in the giant machine that you bought for $100,000, and then you fast for 3 months, and that will be the best time of your life because you don't get any toxins in, but you eat away all your calories and you die.
That's absolutely.
This is the internet nowadays, and you get questions, and I get questions about all these million different things that are like the minus freaking detail that are completely irrelevant, you know. So that's and I've never seen mercury poisoning on anybody. I've never seen mercury. Now, one guy was eating bassa fish, the Pangaeus fish, and he did get some toxins in, but you know, it's grown in the Mekong Delta, and that's the most disgusting river I've ever seen in my life. You know?
So the thing about mercury is there is a strong correlation between mercury levels and cardiovascular disease. However, it's not clear that the omega-3 portion of for example, salmon does not outweigh the risk from the actual mercury. There are studies by Mozaffarian. Mozaffarian is this guy who does a lot of meta-analysis of cardiovascular disease. I've been researching him because he had an interesting name. He's actually the head of one of the departments of one of the universities on the East Coast. Anyway, so there is an increased risk of cardiovascular disease from the mercury itself, and that's the main issue, by the way. It's not, in my opinion, it's not the acute mercury poisoning. It's
a buildup over time, right?
It's just the buildup that could make you more susceptible to heart disease. But even these authors argue that potentially the omega-3s may outweigh that side effect. But the thing is, what I've realized studying genes and stuff like that is that it's more about not how much you ingest, unless you're ingesting crazy amounts. It's more about how well your body can get rid of it. So some people have impaired detoxification. I have the section in my genetic analysis called detoxification, including glutathione, by the way, and things like that. So some people have impaired detoxification, and those people are the ones who tend to suffer a lot from it.
Yeah, and your genetics play a huge role as well. You know, you can do some chelation therapy, which is, you'll take everything out, right? You know, you'll take everything out of your body, but you know, that might be another way to, to get rid of it. But it's, you'll find reasons not to do anything.
That's true.
and you know, in the end, you have to go by health. And some people just, are a little bit more susceptible to declining health no matter what they do. But ideally, you want to grow all your own food, live out in nature where there's no air pollution and no light pollution, in the evening, so your circadian rhythm is good, and all these little things. You don't want to be on the internet for your mental health. And
well, let me tell you another thing. Even if you grow your own food in your own garden, you still don't know how much the mineral content is in that garden. So you don't know the little minerals in your vegetable.
So what is the best soil in the world? When I was living in Holland, we have in Flevoland, which is a province of Holland, it was raised out of the ocean or the lake. So they made a border around it and they pumped all the water up. It's the most fertile land I've ever seen in my life. Really, we grew sunflowers one time, like a little sunflower. We put it in the ground, and it grew 3.5 meters. The sunflowers were literally 70 centimeters wide. From a little sunflower bed. It was amazing. And the weed, my mom has to unweed her garden every week. That's how fast it grows. But it's still, even if you find the most remote place, you'll still get sun pollution. You'll still have the electricity wires, sending out magnetic waves. You can't escape it, man. We're all going to die. We're all going to die at one point.
You bring up actually an important point, which is that many people don't know. So the viewers can know. You can, if you're living in the U.S., you can check the radiation, the amount of radiation in your area. not all cities are equal and not all states are equal. So for example, Los Angeles County actually has a tremendous amount of radiation because of the oil that was going on in the area. And there's a school called Beverly Hills High School, which is where a lot of the rich kids go to, that actually had so much radiation that they had a tremendous amount of cancers among the high school students. Not many people know about this. The richest kids in the school going there. So you never know. You never know.
So they all get prostate cancer and
they were getting blood cancers, stuff like that. If I recall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's radiation for sure. Yeah, that's good. Leukemia is. I've seen it happen in some of my old friends. It's not fun, man. Leukemia
or of the lymph nodes. One of those.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, the lymphatic system. Yeah, no, it's not fun.
Now, moving on to another subject you mentioned. You just mentioned blood clots, and I think you mentioned blood clots earlier.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about blood clots because maybe this will segue also to our discussion of current events in bodybuilding, because a lot of we've come across a lot of bodybuilders in the last 6 months, and it seems like it didn't happen. We didn't hear about this before, that a lot of people have got blood clots recently, even before COVID.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It might be COVID related because people do get blood clots on COVID, and I've seen that firsthand here in Thailand. From some of the results. So it's I think it's semi-related, but again, you got to look at it this way. The whole infrastructure of the world has changed due to COVID, and maybe if you don't get your vitamin K in for whatever reason, you get more blood clot, and you still stay in your cycle, and and certain food items, certain supplements are not available, and you're more stressed, because of the situation. All these things contribute. Or maybe you can do your therapeutic phlebotomy.
Actually, I couldn't. And I was thinking, you know what? I've never injected in a vein before, but I'm thinking of doing a Tony Huge and pulling out the blood, but I didn't want to do it. I feel like that's a barrier. I don't want to pass that barrier.
I've done it one time because my blood pressure was so freaking high, not to do it, just to take the blood out. I couldn't get it under control. So it's a long story. So, you get an 18 gauge and you just, you tape off your arm and you start in the shower, and then, because it goes everywhere, the blood pressure is way too high.
Yeah.
And
wow.
You tape off. Yeah, it's scary, man. I took half a liter out.
I didn't want to damage the blood vessel. That's what I was scared of, because
I've done so much blood work, and last Sunday, I did the blood work, and then the nurse got a little bit too excited, and she went straight through the vein into my tendon.
Oh my god!
Oh, that hurts so bad. I get goosebumps,
Every time I go to Plus Diagnostics here, the phlebotomist makes a mistake and misses the vein, and it's crazy because my veins are very visible. I'm born, big veins. Yeah. But when I go to, there's actually, if anyone lives in the West Coast, Cedar Sinai here has the best phlebotomist. If you go there, they make no mistakes. It's like you don't feel a thing. They do it perfectly. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, in Thailand, is the coronavirus very present? A lot of people are getting it?
It's completely under control, man.
Oh, really? Perfect.
So here in Thailand, there were 56 deaths and 2,000 or 3,000 cases. These are all tested, so there's no inflation, unlike some countries we know. Let's not go there. Yeah. So here, all the cases are real cases. All the deaths were related to COVID, not overcharged, because all the hospitals are private and they don't get a surplus of money when they report a death. Again, different story. Like every country is different, right? So they closed the borders. The borders just opened 2 or 3 days ago. And what I'm a little bit worried about is the second wave of all the foreigners that are going to come, because Europe is, well, if we go by statistics, Europe is not 100% under control. Australia is not 100% under control. And the States is definitely not 100% under control. If we go by the statistics, so I'm worried about the second wave, but here everything is under control. We all wear masks. I know it's controversial, but everybody in Asia is wearing masks and they're doing their part. I'm wearing my mask too. You're not allowed into a shopping mall without wearing a mask or without them taking your temperature. They got these huge cameras, infrared cameras, and they check everybody, and it's all, public transportation. Yeah, it's very well set up, man. Asia is very, very, very ahead of the rest of the world in this sense, because they had the H1N1 virus and SARS and a couple other, resistant bacteria or antibiotic resistant diseases. And they're very, very progressive about it. And that's why you see that nobody here is really suffering from it, besides all the restrictions, so you have to use your phone to check in, so they don't see the surplus of people. And the reason why they do that is because, let's say there's a case detected at one of the malls, and they can check everybody that logged in and warn them and then put them under mandatory quarantine. But that hasn't happened because there's no new cases now.
That's fantastic.
But let's see after the borders open.
You know who's really suffering? I noticed recently is India. India is having a very difficult time.
They have poor sanitation also, so that doesn't really help.
Yeah, actually, one of my the guys who follows the channel, he thought he had SARS, but it turns out he got typhoid or typhus.
Yeah. There's too many people in India, and the sanitation is very, very it's not up to par, so it's they're struggling a lot.
Go there, they get sick for a week every time they go to India. My own friends. Yeah.
I went to India one time also, and for a week, and I got horribly sick. When I got back.
I always wanted to go there, actually. To me, this is one of the countries I most want to visit. I read about Indian history a lot. And
I would like to see it, but I'd probably bring canned tuna with me just to eat, and eat canned tuna only. Sorry.
Indian food, so I want to try it, but I think it's risky.
It's great food, but I'm just scared of the sanitation, and I traveled for a year. My digestion is already ruined from traveling and eating street food for a whole year. I don't want to make it any worse. And I've heard some horror stories of people that went there and you had to do a stool transplant.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Actually, you know what another country is like that is Ethiopia. I had, when I was working in private equity, my boss went to Ethiopia once, and he had it was for a business meeting. And the same day he arrived there, he had some kind of meal. We like Ethiopian food, actually. So he was excited. He ate the meal. He had such a bad stomach, whatever happened to him, that he flew out the same night. He refused to go to their hospital because he was concerned so much. But that's another country I want to visit one day.
Yeah, it's the funny thing is all the countries that are very fun to visit, right, and a little bit off the beaten path. Food is always a bit of an issue. Sanitation, and food poisoning is it's a reality of it. I've had it many times when I was traveling, but I haven't had it for over 5 years now since I've been in Thailand, because I cook all my own meals and I only go to the restaurants which have closed kitchens and practice Scrum and sanitation practices, but the street food, no, it's no thanks.
Now, do you eat Thai food? Do you like Thai food also?
No.
It's not your thing.
I used to like it, but I'm not anymore because I associate Thai food with stomach issues. Yeah, sorry, but every time I eat it, I get horrible, and they make it so spicy that it's almost offensive. You have a bite and it's like some Thai guy's repeatedly punching you in the mouth. That's how spicy it is. So it tastes great and it's great food, and it's a lot of fun eating with a group of Thai people, but it's the food poisoning and the spiciness turns me off a little bit.
Okay, I have a couple of comments there. First thing is odd observation I noticed. You were blonde when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I noticed something my whole life. I actually have a brother who was also blonde when he was a child because I'm half white American. So my brother was blonde when he was a kid. My brother could never tolerate spiciness. And I observed this as a child. And then throughout my life, all the blonde people I know are the most sensitive to spiciness.
Yeah, everybody has I think everybody has a different palate, because in Europe we eat not spicy at all. We eat mostly bitter, and the cheeses and the wines and the, and the beers, and it's all bitter tasting, right? And, the sausages. But the spicy stuff, it's usually southern Spain and Italy, and then you turn to a little bit more spicy food, especially tapas, which is Spanish, right? It's more spicy, and and they all have brown hair.
Yeah, it's interesting. The second thing is I noticed that the Thai food, it's often, I think it has sugar and spiciness in it. In the dish.
But it has everything. So it has 5 kinds of sugar, 2 kinds of spices, and then 2 kinds of salt. So it's normal salt and MSG, and then I have the fresh chili and the dried chili, and then palm sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, syrup, and then something else. Yeah, it's crazy. And then of course all the the leaves and and the best Thai dishes, you can't eat half of it. Half of the ingredients are just for flavoring. And then you really have to go fishing for, the pieces of chicken, and they put whole pieces of pepper in there. like the whole fucking branch, you know. It tastes great, but it's always an adventure, you know, or a Russian roulette to see if you're going to get food poisoning.
Now, we'll go back to bodybuilding in a second. I just have one last question. Does your wife eat Thai food at home, or does she eat with you? What do you guys eat together?
I got her off it.
You really?
I westernized her. No, no. She liked to eat Thai food, but when I met her, she was already eating like bro food, you know, because she was into fitness. So she was already cooking her own meals and making the chicken and the rice and the sweet potato and that kind of stuff. And you know, in the beginning, she didn't eat pizza. She didn't like sushi. So I said, okay, let's have to you know, educate her a little bit on that sense. And I was already eating Thai food, so I was already educated enough to eat spicy. But then we started going out. Yeah, and now she eats Western food. It's
now
great.
my curiosity is, who's the cook in the house? Is it you or your wife?
Me.
I thought so. Yeah.
Me. Yeah. So I usually in the weekend I cook open sandwiches. So it's very basic. It's just bread, cheese, bacon, or ham. You know, cooked ham, and then eggs, and then, you know, some ketchup, some vegetables. It's very basic. And that's what we eat every weekend. It's great, man. It's but the other cooking, it's just bodybuilding food. It doesn't look appetizing, you know.
So has she been? Sorry, one more question. Has she been with you to Holland before?
Yeah, we've been to Holland 2 or 3 times. We've been to Dubai man, I can't even remember, 2 or 3 times. We've been all over Asia together. She's been to the States actually for training, and she's been to Germany, Switzerland, also all over Asia, other countries that I haven't been to. She's well traveled. Yeah.
How does she like Holland? Like, how does she feel about the culture?
It was hilarious. We went there, and then, you know, we went to Amsterdam, and she was looking around, and then out of nowhere she said, "I can't live here." Out of nowhere, so I can't make any money here. Yeah, because, you know, she's a personal trainer, right? And she, you know, her rates are pretty high, so she caters mostly to the Thais that are well off, you know, the business people. And she was looking around Holland, and she's like, "There's no customers for me here."
Yeah.
Just through observation, and she's very, very right, because Dutch people are not rich.
Well, actually,
some of them are, but they don't care about fitness. You know, they only care about wines and cigars, which is fine. But there's no market for personal training here. In fitness in Thailand is very, very popular. So all the very rich business people, they all got a personal trainer, which is, you know, a wide variety of competition trophies, or a very good standing social media wise, basically. So that's the first thing she notices. I can't live here. It's fun. You know, I like zoos and the parks and the pancakes. I also think, she said, we're walking through Amsterdam. She's like, "What's that smell?" I said, baby, that's weed. I said, "That's weed?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "And now I don't want to try it anymore."
You bring up 2 interesting things. First of all, doesn't Thailand have a lot of marijuana also?
Yeah, it's legal now for last year or 2. So medicinal marijuana is legal, and it's being sold. They got CBD websites, and I know people that are starting to smoke now publicly, you know, so I've seen it too. And it's hilarious to see, because, you know, it was part of my younger years, right? You see people smoke weed and you don't think much of it. And I tried weed many, many times, but you know, it's mostly peer pressure, and I didn't really enjoy the feeling of, you know, this you know, semi psychotic state that you're in. You're not psychotic, but, you know, it does work on the brain a little bit. So I didn't enjoy that state. So, and now I see people smoke weed here and then post about it publicly, and it's just hilarious, you know. But it's totally uninteresting for me.
You know what? The interesting thing is, a lot of the sativa strains of marijuana actually came from around Thailand. They were sourced and grown up.
Kratom. That's all from here in Malaysia, and kratom is still highly illegal, but people talk about it all publicly also. Yeah, it's very illegal, you know. And then at one point, the methamphetamines might get approved, and then Thailand will be the same as Holland.
Well, the methamphetamine is approved in Holland?
No, but in Holland it's like Schedule 2, right, or Schedule 3. But let's say you go to a party, you got cocaine or amphetamines or MDMA with you, they'll just take it and they'll fine you $50 per gram. It's not even worth the paperwork. But in other countries, like in Thailand right now, if you're caught with amphetamines, they'll throw you in jail.
Well, they should, because that's what's been really affecting Philippines, right? According to my Filipino friends, it's the amphetamines. That's what the current president has been really going against, because it's been affecting the society a lot. Now, one last thing about what you mentioned. You mentioned the high net worth individuals in Thailand that are the clients of your wife. One interesting thing I was going to ask you about was because I have, when I was younger, I was very into tattooing. I got a lot of tattoos when I was younger. And I used to collect tattoos from different people in the world. One of my tattoo artists, his name is Mr. Cartoon. He's a very well-known person in California. He tattooed a lot of celebrities, Eminem, and 50 Cent's back piece? That 5-0, I don't know if you've seen that. That's him. The Lakers sign of the basketball team, that's him also.
I don't really follow the celebrities.
Me neither. But just for tattooing, I know about it. But anyway, he's a very well-known guy. And actually, when I was talking to him, he said a lot of his clients are from Thailand. And they come from Thailand. And actually, they flew him into Thailand also. And he told me, you've never seen, Leo, the kind of people. They are so wealthy. And they are... very, very wealthy, profoundly so, and they're young, sort of playboy type of guys. I guess they inherited maybe the money.
Second or third generation. There's a hidden joke here. They say the first generation makes it, the second generation maintains it, and the third generation spends it.
Oh, this is true. This is true across these families around the world. Right. You see a lot of people like that in Thailand, high rollers, stuff like that.
It's so much, man. It's unbelievable.
And do you know where their money comes from? Is it like construction?
Family. You know, I know one person here that just helps with the family business, and they make tin cans.
Oh, interesting.
They make all the tin cans, or the majority of the tin cans in Thailand.
Wow.
And they're multi-billionaires in Kuwaiti dollars.
Wow, Kuwaiti dollars. That's
I have to mention Kuwaiti dollars because it's the highest currency in the world, right? So if I say $1 billion Thai baht, it's a couple $100 million US, but it's billions of dollars in Kuwaiti dollars. So imagine how many Thai baht that is. It's unbelievable. And they show up with a Porsche and a Ferrari and whatever, Mercedes gazillion series. They all have it, and it's all imported. And they're all 400% taxed, and they just spend the money, man. And it doesn't mean anything to them. I've never seen so many rich people in my life as in Thailand.
Really? And do they tax the cars there when they import?
Yeah, import taxes are very, very high, especially on the supercars. So a Ferrari would be 400% here. Like a Mercedes is a very high valued car here because of the taxes. But in Holland and Germany, everybody drives around in those things, right? The BMW is not very expensive. So I have a couple Germans in the gym. They all got BMWs and Mercedes back home. And they talk with the Thai guys. Oh, that's a nice car. Yeah, I spent $30,000 on it. And here they spend $150.
You know what other countries like that? Iran. I've been to Iran there, and I was surprised because they're very wealthy, but their cars they don't have expensive cars, and it's because they have this crazy tax on the importation, which sort of makes sense because I don't know if it makes sense, but basically, you're pushing out money from one country into another country, and it's a luxury good. So if somebody can afford it, it's a good way.
So they triple the fee, and then most of the money stays in the country, right? Most of the rich Thai guys, they got all their money abroad anyway, So it's they have everything off the books. They all find a legal loophole and they put it somewhere else, Well, everybody had to take their money out of Hong Kong recently because of China.
Things are changing really.
That's not a good place to have that's not a good currency to have your money in right now.
No,
it's Hong Kong dollars. No.
The world is changing so quickly. I think we're living at an unusual time, but we won't get too much into that.
We'll save that off camera.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, let's start some bodybuilding current events topics.
Sure.
Some interesting things that are going on. Like one thing, for example, is that I think this is mostly from Generation Iron. Generation Iron was interviewing, I'm sure you saw the interviews with George Farah. Originally, it was George Farah.
Full disclaimer, I don't watch Generation Iron because I think it's a bunch of negativity. And Tony asked me, do you want to be part of the Generation Iron 3 or 4? And I said, no. This is too much exposure, and it's all negative horse shit, and it's all clickbait, and I don't watch it. So please enlighten me on what was said.
It's very brief. There's not much to know about that, but I don't, I also, just to say, I also don't really like that channel. The channel I like that tells the news is RX Muscle. I think they do it well.
Yeah, Nick Strength and Power and the Australian Desktop Bodybuilding, which is a horrible name, but it's a great channel. It's very positive.
I just came across this channel also.
Yeah.
That channel has like 300,000 followers, right? Or subscribers.
No, Nick Strength and Power's got like 800,000 or almost a million, and Desktop Bodybuilding maybe 20 or 30.
Okay, I'm talking
it's still
about
growing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll check
growing.
it out. I don't know it then. But I'll
yeah, it's
say
interesting, and it's positive. You know, I stopped watching TV and the news years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. When I was 15, I realized it was all horseshit. And so I only watch the positive stuff, which makes you live in a giant bubble, but it's a very pleasing and positive bubble.
By the way, that's a very wise way to live, because most of the news we watch is what we would call in statistics static. It's not actually large changes. So you're getting your emotions riled up for nothing. Instead of watching the news every day, if you read a journal once every 3 months, you'll know what really was important.
Right. That's what I do also with this Corona stuff. I update it every 2 weeks, you know. Not every day, because you'll go freaking nuts.
And it's not useful, because that information turns out not to be true a few days later.
No, exactly. Right.
So, but basically what happened is George Farah, you know, he had cancer, and thank God he recovered. He had a colorectal cancer. And, you know, the history of George Farah is that he made his name uniquely among the gurus, being someone that was very against high-protein diets, because he got shot.
He has one kid now, right? Yeah, he has one kidney. Yeah.
Exactly. So he was always talking about high carbohydrates. And I didn't know much about insulin, but in his interview, he had a long interview. Basically, he was saying that he discovered through his experience with cancer that there's a lot of danger with these high carbohydrates, which of course there is, because you know, most of the cancers live off sugar easily, except for skin cancer, a couple of others. So he said that, but then he also said basically a large statement, which of course Generation Iron clipped and made it as controversial as possible, which was that insulin is the worst thing that happened to bodybuilding. Something like that. He said it's very bad, very dangerous. It's the worst thing. I regret ever recommending it. Then RX Muscle, Dave Palumbo brought on Milos, and Milos and talked about insulin together.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And that's the important one, because that you know, the first one was just so basically. I wanted to ask you what. Of course, I know you have very unique opinions on insulin, which are very advanced. But first of all, who do you think of those three? Obviously, the first one is a bit ridiculous, but Milos and the RX Dave, who did you side with more? What did you think of it?
The problem is they're all right, but it depends on which circumstance.
Exactly.
I mean, insulin abuse with a lot of sugar and a lot of food, and you know, those inter-workout carbs, they ruined bodybuilding from a perspective that everybody got IFBB pro bellies, right? And they don't do that so much anymore. So the waxy maize and the dextrose, and then a ton of branch-shake BCAAs, inter-workout or post-workout with 50 units of insulin, you know, that was being done. Yeah, and it all gets stored as visceral fat, and these guys don't want to fast.
Yeah, exactly.
So the visceral fat never goes away. And Palumbo is right in the sense that he wants to treat it as a diabetic. And Milos is right as he wants to supply the anabolism and feed the nutrients. But he has a little bit a better approach. And if I'm going to compare all three, I'm going to lean towards a combination of Palumbo and Milos, you know, because my insulin recommendations are always moderate. So use insulin to help absorb your meals and improve the digestion and deliver the nutrients to your muscle tissue without ruining insulin sensitivity for the sake of anabolism. But I don't feel that it's necessary to force all the nutrients in while you're training. First of all, they will increase your body temperature way too much, and it's impossible to do in Thailand or some of the country. Yeah, because I have a lot of clients in hot countries, right? So it's impossible to do insulin pre-workout because you'll melt from the inside. Because your metabolic rate goes up so high, and you know, all those carbs being replenished, right? So you're constantly burning carbs, and it's very anti-catabolic. But as a return, you produce a lot of body heat. That's why I like keto, because you know, burning ketones and body fat or fat stores is less thermic compared to burning carbs. So it works, but Milos' strategy works if you're a 120 kilo freak. But a lot of people forget that is that not a lot of people are 120 kilo freaks. Not everybody's 250, 270 pounds. You know, I'm 230, 240, 250 at maximum, and I don't need it. I don't need this pre-workout insulin. But if you're a big guy, you need it because you burn through all the glucose so fast that you start to grow catabolic halfway through your workout. You know, because the glycogen is gone. And their metabolic rate is so high because of the androgens and maybe thyroid. You never know what the cocktail composes of completely, because the pro coaches are never 100% honest, and it shouldn't be, because again, an 80-kilo guy is going to copy what a 120-kilo guy is going to do, and I see that sometimes in the comment fields is when I talk about something. It's a little bit specific, and then some 60-kilo kid is going to duplicate it, and it's not everybody has the intellect to understand that everything is a step-by-step process. So most people would be better off following Palumbo's strategy by just treating themselves as diabetic and replacing some of the pancreatic insulin with exogenous insulin, and then when they get up to 120 kilos, they can contact Milos or me, or another coach that knows how to do insulin well, and then we guide them through the process.
Now, I think this was a great analysis. One thing I would add, what I wanted to say about this, I didn't get a chance to say, is that number one, so there's a theory in terms of diabetes research, which is that this is the old theory, and Fung is someone who popularized the opposite of this, actually. So the old theory is that the pancreas, actually the beta cells die, and for example, I've brought this to the attention of the public by saying, if the pancreas beta cells were really dying, and that's the reason for the lack of insulin, not sensitivity but production, then when people get, for example, bariatric surgery, when the obese people, their stomach stapled or cut out or whatever, they wouldn't become undiabetic because the pancreas is already destroyed. But in fact, some of them recover completely, and their sensitivity and their insulin production. So the original, when Palumbo began using insulin with growth hormone, he was thinking that he's saving his pancreatic beta cells from death. But it may be the case that that's not actually happening in the first place. Now, now we don't know, but let's just say that may be the case. The other thing that we have to know is that growth hormone, when you're injecting it, is making you, at the time, of course, you know this, you talk about all the time, making you insulin resistant. But it's not just making you insulin. There's a lot of people that view Palumbo's discussions don't realize it's not making you insulin resistant just against your own insulin, but it's making you insulin resistant against all insulin. And it's on
the muscle cell, right? And it's by increasing its triglycerides a little bit and by acting on the cell membrane. And so there's a few different pathways where you're getting insulin resistant, but it's also dose dependent. So if you're taking 2 units of growth hormone, it doesn't really matter that much, But if you start taking 2 units of growth hormone several times per day, or doing like 10 units of growth hormone, is your weekly budget divided by 3, for example, during the off season, you're pretty freaking insulin resistant. And you'll still need to use insulin to bring the blood sugar down. But it's the amount of insulin that's in, and you'll see the hemoglobin H1C just increase over time, because the insulin starts working on the hemoglobin. Or blood sugars started working on the hemoglobin, sorry.
No, please. Everything you're saying is, I agree with you completely. But 2 things are happening then, right? In the acute phase, you're getting, in the acute phase, while you inject the growth hormone, of course, depending on the dose, like you said, I've tried this myself with various doses, and it only really happens when you go to very high doses, you notice it. But say you inject the growth hormone, you become acutely insulin resistant. Now the fear is chronic insulin resistance and acutely. So acutely, you want to absorb your nutrition. So you may need to supplement with insulin. But as we know with all type 2 diabetics, over the years, they have to use higher and higher doses of insulin because just injecting that exogenous insulin makes you, if you do it consistently enough, makes you insulin resistant also against that insulin. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I wish that George Farah said, he was like, insulin is so dangerous. But I think he was talking about dying quickly, but not talking about the concept that hyperinsulinemia, having high insulin all the time, which, for example, you don't have because you have a ketogenic diet. That's actually, you're saving the insulin for when you want to use it as a hormone to keep you anabolic, but you're keeping yourself safe from the hyperinsulinemia, which is correlated to cancer, cardiovascular disease, everything. So, this approach that you use is really health saving for a bodybuilder.
I hope so. We'll see when I'm 50, right? It's because, what I'm doing is a little bit against the grain because I'm taking insulin on a ketogenic diet. But, the whole philosophy of that is that you get a little bit of gluconeogenesis from protein and stored body fat, or some of the carb sources that you have, right? So raise your glucose levels. And by taking growth hormone, the lipolysis that you cause, you get the triglycerides, and the glycerol backbone goes through the liver and increases blood sugar levels. So by taking a long-acting insulin, actually I keep my blood sugar levels, to the middle of the range, which promotes more lipolysis, because now there's no feedback, right? The blood sugar is suppressed, so there's no negative feedback from more lipolysis, which can then convert into ketones. And that's why my ketones are pretty high. And as long as I drink enough water and my electrolyte is stable, I don't go into crazy ketogenic acidosis, which is also a risk when you're fasting, right? I mean, a ketone with this strategy, it can go pretty high. So I'm managing everything the best I can, but it's when I take a little bit of a long-acting insulin on a ketogenic diet and my fat intake, it just keeps all the blood sugar levels nice and stable. But of course, a Humalog injection would be a little bit risky because it's so fast acting, unless I do cardio, but it's a different story.
Yeah, I really feel like you deserve, and you will get, I'm sure, much more recognition with time as the longer you stay on YouTube posting.
Yeah, at one point. I mean, I don't really care about the.
I know you don't care, but I want people to realize, and we have a slightly different viewer pool, so hopefully the people listen to this that.
We'll get cross contamination, right?
There's a lot of cross contamination even before the first video. But the point is, like, there's literally nobody in the bodybuilding coaches that it looks at this so rigorously and seriously. Especially, I mean, I the more I learn about your methods, the more impressed I get. And to be honest, the funny thing is, Greg Doucette actually sort of made his reputation on YouTube by sort of health conscious. Like, he tell you don't use SARMs. But none of his stuff actually, although I like him now, I watched more of his videos. I saw he wasn't screaming before, and he's tolerable, the old videos.
Yeah, the old ones are good.
Yeah, exactly. But his actually, the way he thinks is not very it's not very scientifically grounded, and a lot of it is just sort of
but most guys are not very scientific, and I understand, because in the end, as a coach, you just need to work, or you just need to know how the body is going to respond.
Yeah, true.
And honestly, you don't need to know how it works. You just need to know how the body is going to respond. And if you know how the body responds, like Chris Aceto, for example, if you ask him how the hormones work that he recommends, or the diet works, he doesn't know. But he knows how the body responds, and he knows it in a million different scenarios, and that's why he's the best.
No, he's excellent, but Chris Aceto doesn't have a reputation for being health conscious, which is what Greg came across as being.
Right. Yeah.
Health conscious. So. I call his diet the cancer cookbook. This cookbook that he's selling. I call it the cancer cookbook because
Is that bad?
I never seen in my whole life that much processed food in a diet. I've never seen.
Oh, really?
It's unbelievable.
I did read it.
Unbelievable. You can't read it. You have to pay $100. But if it's there are videos on it, and it's no. I'm not bashing. I like Greg Doucette. I like to watch his videos, and he's very successful, and I respect him. But anyway, my point is, it's not truly a healthy lifestyle. Whereas the things you do are actually really health preserving.
Well, what I think with Greg is because he understands his audience. That's why he, went to a different kind of content. And I noticed that with a lot of, like, my audience is growing a lot in the States right now. So I get a lot of more American clients. And I see when I ask them, it's like, give me a food log, when they sign up for coaching. And it's a lot of processed stuff.
Yeah.
Every time. And I think the Americans, they love the processed stuff, and it's the majority of YouTube. When I think most people, when they look at their audience base, it's mostly American. So, I guess he just wants to play into the audience and make it easy for everybody, because I have to get everybody off the processed food. No stevia, no this, no that, no cereal. Take it all out. And then a month later, like, Dan, I can't believe that I'm eating 4,000 calories without bloating. Yeah, well, now you're eating real food, buddy.
Well, the one thing we know about health that's definitely not controversial is processed food is bad for you. There is no question about that. That's not debatable. So
if it doesn't expire within a week, it's shit, And if oatmeal and rice, but if you reconstitute it, if you cook it, then it goes off within a day, So it's I don't touch it. And if you want to have a donut in the weekend, okay, that's fine. It's one meal out of 35 or.
But it can't be the main thing, and you can't be eating some processed food instead of your rice or whatever you're eating.
No, it's in my opinion, no, not at all.
Did you see the interview on Valuetainment with Chad Nichols?
Yeah, that one I watched completely. It was very interesting.
I find Chad fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's weird. Like some of these coaches, yeah, Chad worked out, right? And he used to be pretty big at one point, but I've never seen a picture of him.
Oh, I saw a picture of him when he was.
Oh yeah, how did he look? Because I've seen pictures of Chris Aceto, and he looked pretty good. He looked very nice as a classic physique guy, you know.
Chad was like 300 pounds fat. That's how he.
Yeah, he was pretty huge, but I've never seen pictures without a shirt.
No. He was fat. He was clearly fat.
Oh, okay.
With the clothing on. Yeah.
Right. So and so I always wondered, how a coach like that gets the information how to get nasty peeled, when he's never been nasty peeled.
True. It's very. I mean, that's what I don't know anything about that. I don't even know how people get dry for because I was in powerlifting and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there before, but so I know how to incorporate it with my clients, and you learn more as you go, right? But I mean, some of his methods are interesting, but some of Chris Aceto's methods are interesting too. And everybody, and my methods would be interesting as well, so everybody's got their own protocols that they figured out which work well for their clients. And they might be, controversial considered for antibodies, I mean, the rumor that Chad gave drinks with, special diuretics in there during the diuretic testing. I mean, I've heard about that for years. Where he just comes to your room and he said, drink this.
Yeah. What I was fascinated by was in the interview was particularly, actually, I thought to interview Chad, but he doesn't reply to emails. So
no, he doesn't. Some of these guys, they don't do interviews. Dante Trudell and Chad Nichols and all these guys, they don't want to.
No. Chad has been on Nick Trigili's show for 10 times.
Oh, really? Yeah, really? Okay. Yeah, maybe because they work together,
Yeah, but what basically I wanted to, but I saw the interview, so I learned a little bit more. I was surprised because Chad's main call to fame is that he was a drug guy. He knows about all the drugs very well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when the Patrick Bet-David was showing him the drugs, it seemed like he didn't really understand much about them.
I was downplaying it. I mean, it's still a curse in bodybuilding where they just act stupid or pretend they don't know or that it's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's
you lie for 10 years. I'm not saying that Chad is a liar, but I've seen it so much because of the stigma that's attached to bodybuilding and the legality issues and trying to keep it underground and in a closed circle. There's so much BS out there.
Yeah.
So much BS out there, and it's hard to sift through, and then you need a little bit more experience and a little bit of knowledge before you can see what is real and what is not. So. Chad he was downplaying everything. Oh, that's the long acting. Yeah, I think it's the long acting. It's like he doesn't know, but
okay.
He knows. He knows, but he's just pretending like he doesn't know, so he doesn't look like a drug guy because they all call themselves nutritionists, right?
Yeah.
I think the only guy that's actually a nutritionist is Chris Aceto, and all the other coaches are drug guys.
True, yeah. Hey, so following up from Chad, actually, did you see the Joe Rogan interview with Ronnie Coleman?
Yeah.
He mentioned his nutritionist a couple of times, but then he mentioned him once. So what did you think about that? There's been a whole YouTube discussion, and I know both you and I are not people to make videos about this kind of thing, but I'm just curious, the 0.3 and the negative body fat and all this kind of stuff, did you have a reaction to it or no?
No, not really. I think, I mean, Ronnie Coleman had a coach his entire life, right? And before Chad, he was working with somebody else, I'm not sure who. So they do all the thinking for him.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, it puts your mind at ease. You just put in the work and you get the results, right? Especially a guy like Ronnie Coleman who worked his ass off to the point of breaking. He doesn't need to know about his body fat levels. And then you interview the guy and he said, yeah, it's minus 3%. Okay, because he doesn't know. Don't blame him for it. Don't fault the guy.
Exactly. That's what I found out.
There's plenty of stuff I don't know either, and it might start, you go through all the videos and I said something stupid or I misspoke and okay. So we're not all experts. I know a lot, but we don't know everything.
I constantly say the wrong word in a video, and then I look at it, I say, wait a minute, I was trying to say the opposite of what I said.
And I have to put the subtitles in again. I'm like,
exactly.
It looks very unprofessional, but sometimes you misspeak. Yeah. And, like when we're talking right now, like the difference is when we're talking right now, it's way easier to communicate compared to when you're sitting there talking into the camera.
Exactly.
Because I get a little bit nervous sometimes when you're talking or you talk too fast or within your mouth or, and then halfway through the sentence, you realize that you misspoke and you're like, Did I just misspoke or not? And then you look back at it, you look at your confused face. I'm like, oh God, can I put this on YouTube? Okay. Sometimes you cut it out, and sometimes, I just put subtitles. I'm like, okay, I hope the audience will forgive me. And it's the same with, imagine being on Joe Rogan when the potential audience is 10 million people.
Yeah. Well,
I would be nervous and misspeak also,
My impression was this, to be honest, I first of all, I wasn't surprised at all. Nobody has ever thought of it. First of all, we know in bodybuilding that the top athletes are the most genetically gifted athletes that went the right path, right? It doesn't mean that you don't go get coached by Ronnie Coleman. You don't go get coached by Phil Heath. You go get coached by people who...
Chad.
By Chad.
Or not a coach. Yeah.
Somebody who maybe never had a body like that, but he's someone who was... And in fact, sometimes it's easier to be a coach if you had genetic challenges, because you had to...
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those are the best coaches. In the guys that don't have the genetic background, they had to suffer and grind and figure everything out. And then they can help the guys with, a little bit more genetics, and they, can get away with less, and everything is working from the beginning. So they just make progress upon progress without stalling, until they stall at 300 pounds. So those make for the best coaches, and the best coaches are not pros. The only guy that turned pro was John Meadows, and good for him. But he was also not genetically blessed, and the only real takeaway from John Meadows is his paper thin, freaky skin, and having a nice balanced body. But he wasn't handed any free genetic cards, that's for sure. Well, all the other good coaches, they don't have a pro card, neither do I. I never competed even.
Yeah, true.
Shame on me.
But another point is that I was just appalled by the lack of respect shown to Ronnie Coleman when people were making fun of him or saying he's ridiculous for thinking this percent. Listen, this guy is I'm not a bodybuilder, but I respect the sport of bodybuilding. So this guy is a person who can't walk because of what he did.
Yeah, he gave his freaking body for bodybuilding, man, and for everybody to have a inspiration from the millions of videos. When I saw those videos from him, it's you go to you just finish legs and you watch Ronnie Coleman's leg video and you want to go back to the gym. Exactly. This is the problem with the internet. Everybody's anonymous and they just post whatever they want, but in the real world, they would never say something like this.
And you know what I feel like? This is actually, I think this is one of the places, I'm not always for big government, but I feel like these comment sections should be policed. You should only be
I do it terribly. I'm a terrible police officer on my own comment section.
I feel like you should only be able to have an account based on a real ID, and you have to write your real name. Because then people will, because there's so much negativity. It affects people, really. It affects people.
No, it does. Yeah, it's poison. It's a disease. So they have here Pantip Forum in Thailand, and you can only register with an ID and an account. And if you break the rules, which is negativity, they'll block you for life.
Perfect.
They'll block you for life. And a lot of people are there for business purposes, because all the reviews are there, and the reviews are very respectful, very, very nice. If something is wrong, they explain why, and it's very into detail. And it's probably one of the best forums that I've ever seen, even though I can't read Thai. My wife reads it for me. I said, man, I can't believe, that they'll make reviews for hotels, and they'll take all the pictures, and this food is great, and this hotel room is great, and this was not so great. And then the hotel comes on board. It's rightly, this hotel with the representative that come on board and explain the situation. Thank you for the review, and we'll try the best to improve it. And 6 months later, they go back for a review, and it's changed, and everybody jumps on board like, great freaking job. Here's 5 stars. It's one of the better forums that I've ever seen. Yeah, but the YouTube comment field is it's a roller coaster, man. Because some of the comments are absolutely hilarious to the point I'm laughing my ass off.
Like in terms of meanness or funny ones?
No, just funny. It's just, and you see the likes go up, and I love it, and you pin them to the top because it's hilarious.
Or
and then the opposite. Yeah, and then the opposite end, you have the most disrespectful guy, like this microphone, or for example, this microphone. Yeah, it's advanced, and it picks up a lot of static. So it picks up my breathing as well, right? I breathe. Somebody thought I was on train, and then every video, he said, your breathing is off, you're on train. Every video, 100 videos, he started posting comments. Crazy, absolutely nuts. So I blocked him. And this happens, of course, while I'm sleeping. So I wake up to 100 comments about trenbolone and breathing issues and cardiovascular disease. And, you know, and it's unfortunate. Like, I would love to do like where you can pre-select the audience with YouTube. Like, you only make it available for men in between 25 and 60, for example.
On Instagram, you can do that, right?
Or on YouTube, sorry, on YouTube.
Yeah, but on Instagram, they do that. I don't know if you know this.
No, I don't know.
On Instagram. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Maybe I need to, you know, set up a business account. I'm not really sure. So if I could pre-select my audience, what it gets recommended to and what doesn't, maybe in the future that will be like, because now YouTube is 100% advertisement for your business. So you get a little bit more control over your audience. I think that would solve a lot of problems, you know. And then I select the countries as well. You know, they don't fall into my target demographic. Yeah, but that's, you know, wishful thinking, I guess. So for now, we'll just have to tolerate it.
What I've been doing, look, my channel is much smaller than yours, so I don't get as much negativity.
Not yet.
Yeah,
so it's growing. So
you know what I've been getting a lot now? I've been getting a lot of these. But anyway, what I was going to say is, what I do is, if the comment is like, I can clearly tell the person is trying to instigate something really intentionally, then I block them because I don't have time for them. But honestly, I block like 2 a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
But many of them are negative or something. They're trying to upset me. But I leave those ones if it's you know, lighthearted. But if it's somebody like trying, but what I'm getting now recently, a lot of the annoying comments is this guy is clearly Arab, or this guy is Israeli, he's from Israel, or a question like, which Arab country are you from? Well, the problem is I can't answer that easily because I'm biracial, and I lived in 2 countries. I mean, I'm from 2 countries, and I'm not even talking about where I lived, but I'm half white and I'm half Arab. So every time I to answer,
and white and Arab is very broad. It's very broad. Like,
if I want to answer, I have to write an essay for the person. Like, my mother's.
You'll answer it one time, and then the next video they'll answer it again, because
that's what happened. I answered it.
You have to put it in the description field. The frequently asked questions: what is your height? What is your weight? And what is your racial background? You know, are your marital status and your social security number and your tax ID and.
That's so true.
I think people don't understand how what silly shit we have to deal with on a daily basis. You know, I talked about you know, Derek from A Place More Days, and just let it stand because it's all for the algorithm. So I guess he figured it out, you know. But I still get a bit butthurt when I see a negative comment, you know, about something that there's no need for it, you know. Personally, I talked about it with somebody, other guy that has a YouTube channel. And I said, I never disliked a video in my life. I've been on YouTube since its inception, since 12 years ago. I've never disliked a video. I've stopped videos and closed the screen and said, okay, I don't want to watch this because it's not worth my time, or it elicits a response that I don't want to feel. And but I never disliked the video in my life.
Because it takes a bizarre kind of feeling to want to dislike a video. It's like, and by the way, I noticed one thing. I think that they always dislike it in the beginning before they watch it. I hate you, and then they watch it. I think they watch it though. They're not just. So
you block a few people, and then you see your like ratio go up to 100% again. So you need to trigger these guys into posting something shitty. Then you block them, and then you go from 3 dislikes down to 2, and then to 1, and then to 0 again, and then you got 100% like ratio again. So I let them post. At one point, I get triggered for something you said, and then I'll just block them, and my like ratio goes up again.
It's funny, you know, I get like 2 or 3 dislikes on all my videos, including the informative ones, and I'm like, this is odd because I'm not even selling a product. The informative videos are, honestly, I don't talk about things people talk elsewhere. I usually talk something new every time. And it only benefit. I mean, why would you be?
You'll get like 10 dislikes for just talking about dislikes.
Yeah, it's probably. This will happen.
You should just take it. Man up.
No, it's, you know, because the thing is, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. You can't. Yeah. We're born to, you know, be social animal creatures. You know, we used to live in tribes, and if somebody in the tribe says something to you negative, you have to think about it. Otherwise, you could cause conflict, or you could cause, you know what I mean? So we have these cognitive biases. We don't want to pay attention to these things. We know they're intentional. But you can't avoid it. And that's why Joe Rogan always says, don't read the comments. And for example, Rhonda Patrick, she does a health channel also. Rhonda Patrick does not. She has someone go through her comments for her.
Yeah, I think at one point, I think I would get a social media manager, just go through all the Instagram questions and the messages and the emails, and it can be very exhausting, but it can also be very fun, So I still read them once a day, when I'm in a good mood, I start reading, and then sometimes I'm not in a good mood to go through it for a couple of days, and I don't go through it, and And they said, well, why don't you answer my question? I said, well, I have a service for that. It's $21.50, baby.
I have also a service on my website, email answer the questions. So but nobody ever wants to order it. But
I still get it. Yeah, I get a couple per day. Yeah, a couple per day.
That's good.
But I should get more subscribers, right? The more people are inclined to use your service. So it's it's a progressive thing until you get flooded with work and the rates go up.
Exactly. Before we leave off YouTube, one last question I want to ask you about YouTube, which is, do you feel, for me, this is less of an issue, but being a bodybuilding coach, this is an interesting subject. Huh? Do you feel that you have, I know you don't do this, but do you feel pressure to sort of look good for the camera? So, for example, to always stay low body weight or low body fat?
No. I mean, I do shave and trim my hair for the face, which is nothing to do with bodybuilding, just because I want to look clean.
Yeah.
Because my beard is not impressive, and when the hair is a little bit too long, I start to look like one of those capuchin monkeys because my ears are pointy. It's just looking in the mirror. I'm like you go like the most. You criticize yourself in the most ridiculous way. But I do like to look, freshly shaven and trimmed hair. But low body fat, no, man. I've posted on Instagram many times. Like I just posted a couple days ago, like a before and after, like completely shredded, 8% body fat after diuretics and, before my photo shoot. And then last Sunday or last Saturday where I'm 12 to 15% body fat on creatine, insulin, growth hormone, high calories, and I'm just completely glazed over. And just post. Yeah, I just posted because I understand as a coach that it's all part of the process. And getting fat and bloofy and watery and losing definition is all part of the process to build your metabolism. And then you can get shredded on a higher baseline. So, I'm not vain enough to, and I've probably done too much LSD and then mushrooms in my younger years to really have a big ego. I only get offended when people start to question my intellect. Because that's a lifetime of investment, right? In the body, I know it's a temporary investment. So being shredded is temporary, being fat is temporary, and being small or big is also temporary. Well, but the intellect is a huge investment,
But this is the thing, we know that basically Rich Piana killed himself to become a big YouTube star. I mean, on the way, maybe a little bit was an addictive personality or something like that, but he was certainly pushed. You could see in the earlier interviews, because I was the whole time I was watching it while it was happening. The early interviews he used to do with a wrestler, it's called Rick's Corner. And he still had the PMMA stuff or whatever it was, but
it wasn't that big.
He actually looked okay. And then
not so big for Rich Big, but if I were to stand next to him, I would disappear behind the guy. That's 100% for sure.
Yeah, but what I mean is, you could see that over the next 3 years, even his nose grew. Everything grew from I guess he must have been growth hormone.
I think it's also the water retention. I mean, I noticed the same thing with myself. Like, when I'm at the end of off season, like my shoes, they were tight, and now after 5 days of fasting, they're loose again because of the water retention.
Yeah, that just happened to me.
It contributes also, but he was on a decent amount of insulin for the shows. He even talked about it. Said, I'm going to do an insulin carb load for 3 days for the expo, so I can be huge as fuck, and then stand there the whole day on Adderall or some other stimulant, which he also talked about openly. 300 pounds standing all day on Adderall and perhaps some other stimulants, which are allegedly used later on. It takes its toll.
But you look at it this way: the Adderall was there to keep him mentally, because he was basically trying to perform at his highest, maximize his outreach, his everything. And what I see right now, though obviously not a health concerning as much or anything like that, but is in the terms of Greg Doucette. Greg Doucette is always wearing, as you know, like a tiny T-shirt, and he had very low body fat. I mean, like almost like a few weeks from competition, And I know that that's not really comfortable, because if you look at his older videos, you see he had normal. He was normal.
A little bit of fluff,
A little bit. He was never fat, but a little bit. But
No.
now he stays. His for someone that's on some kind of hormones and has that much muscle mass, his face is curved inward. I mean,
I think he's on like 100 tests and 200 primo, and maybe his aromatase is a little bit too high. But the pressure gets to a lot of people.
yeah,
That's one of the reasons.
That's what I thought
Yeah,
about.
because I know several of the Instagram models who are also on like letrozole every day,
That's
and
what
their estrogen is like 2 or 3,
I was
and their
thinking.
HDL is the same. It's yeah, and pressure gets to people. And it's one of the reasons why I'd rather be just semi-famous, and not get too high of a following, just a loyal following that believes in what I have to say and that is health conscious and interested in what I have to learn or what I have to teach people. But I think at one point, the celebrity status gets to you, and I've seen it around me also. Instagram guys that start with 100,000 followers, and then they go up to 2 million, and it gets to them, man. They really know the algorithm, and but it gets to them, and now they have to stay in shape and shredded all the time, and they're always moody as a result because the estrogen is low and the lipids are terrible, and they have to stay on diet and hours of cardio upon hours of cardio, and they take 2 hours of footage for a 5-minute Instagram post because it has to be perfect, because they'll get flamed for it. Because again, it's the people that are brutal.
Yeah,
and for some weird reason, as soon as you go on internet or you put yourself out there, it's like you're public property, but you're still a fucking human being,
Yeah. And the reality is that if they look better in that picture or in their video, they'll get more money directly and more.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, but I think the same. Yeah.
Now imagine all the actors, all the actors, and all the people who are like really, really famous. Like 100 million, like The Rock. I mean, the guy's very, very solid in his shoes, and he's gone through the process. But not everybody's that solid, and they don't have a whole team behind him because, most of the guys, like the guys that I know that have 1 million, 2 million Instagram followers, they manage their own account. They don't have a social media manager. They have to do it all by themselves, take their own pictures, their own footage, their own accounting, their own social media managing, their own sales. It's all a one-man operation, or maybe they've got a camera, a guy or a girl, to fit each and the pictures for them. No, but it's I think people don't understand, the cumulative effect of interacting with people as an individual. That's why I rarely interact with the guys on social media, because I know they get 1 million views and followers and that kind of stuff and messages. And if I do want to say something, it's either something positive, like thank you for this video or that, and I don't even expect a reply. And if they do, I just like it because I know it's too much to manage. Or I ask them or I ask them by email, what are the services, what are your rates, and we work out some sort of compensation strategy, because it's worth their time.
Right.
Because I respect another man's time highly, because I know my time is limited also.
Yeah, this is something we were talking about recently on my channel also. Now I want to ask you, you mentioned you'd rather have a smaller following that's loyal, that cares about their health, than a larger one. And I wanted to ask you, what is the level of market demand in bodybuilding for health-conscious bodybuilding, which you're adept at and have great analytical ability for?
In bodybuilding, it's not so. Bodybuilding, it's not so big, like competitive bodybuilding, the higher levels of bodybuilding. But in recreational bodybuilding, it's huge.
Mostly in the older age group, like 40s,
anywhere. I've got 18-year-olds and I've got 50-year-olds. It's everywhere.
Really?
But the weird thing is, it's only men.
Yeah.
Or maybe the women that contact me, they're sometimes more abusive than the guys.
You know what's interesting?
And it's maybe because of the misinformation what's out there for women, but they see my wife and like, oh, they want to be like that tomorrow, and then they send me their stack. I'm like, my wife never did something reckless like this. What are you talking about?
What are they taking? Like exams?
Everything, dude. It's like 100 tests. This is for wellness or figure. 100 tests, 100 primo, 20 milligrams Anavar on top, or Ostarine if they can get it.
200 milligrams of Anavar?
No, 20 per day.
20, okay.
Yeah, so that's almost 200 per week, right? I have 150 per week.
Yeah.
And these girls are not that big and not that muscular. 100 tests. Just the thought of 100 tests is asinine to me.
That's a man. That's
if you want to be a bodybuilder, okay, that's totally fine. You'll probably need it. Or you can get away with a less androgenic compound like a boldenone or an androlone because you produce your own estrogen, so you don't need an aromatizable compound on top. But these are wellness or figure girls. Yeah, I need it. You don't freaking need it. I can show you how to get used on 2.5 milligrams of Anavar and GH and insulin. Use the GH and insulin because it's not androgenic, and 2.5 milligrams of Anavar is prescribed for years on end. So, I got several girls now that compete in wellness, 2.5 milligrams of Anavar, 20 micrograms of Clen for the CNS support, and GH and insulin.
That makes a lot of sense.
And they're full-time bodybuilders, but in the women class, right? They don't miss meals. They get their workouts in. They train balls to the wall. Heavy hypertrophy style workouts, a little bit of androgen, and a little bit of CNS support from the clenbuterol, and they grow lean.
Can I ask you something? Do these kind of women have abs on the off season?
My women, no, they're all glazed over.
That's
because I want to have their fertility and their menstrual cycle intact.
Exactly. So this is what I was curious about. I'm new to Instagram, and sometimes there's this page, I don't even know how it works, but it recommends to me different pictures. And for
it's an explore page.
Yeah. For some reason, it only recommends to me CrossFit women. I don't know what it has to do.
Depends on who you follow. So if you follow CrossFit women, you're going to get. I don't follow any women because I can only see so much booty per day.
So I follow like 15 people, and none of them are. I don't think any are women, and none are CrossFit. But the point is, I get a lot of these pictures, and what I notice in them is that these women. First of all, they don't actually look that low body fat, but they must be because all of them have their abs showing all year round.
But they're on cycle the whole year, and you ask these girls, and I've seen the blood work many, many times. Guess when the last one time they had a period?
That's what I was gonna say. They must
many years ago.
I thought so because it's not possible. You can't have a period when you have abs like that. It doesn't.
No, and their iron levels are non-existent. And I asked them, how's your stamina during the workout? Yeah, it's not that good, but I don't train so heavy because androgens do the work for me. They got this steel face, no sign of exhaustion, right? And they get a huge pump. So they look like, they do like the tri or the booty exercise. And it's just the androgens that do the job for them. You should see my wife train, man. She's going the same gnarly expressions you would see on a bodybuilder. Oh, yeah, I just let her, she lunges with 70-pound dumbbells. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, but the thing is, you wonder about these women because their face doesn't look like it's gotten the androgen look yet, or they don't look like they're balding at all.
Not yet.
They're just young, right? Because these mostly are 22, 23.
Give it 5 years, and most of them don't even last that long.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They have a 5-year lifespan. My wife's been in the industry for 10 years, still looks like a woman, still looks great, never missed a period. And she's got 4 world championships. Should have gotten 5, but that's a different story. A lot of them they don't know, and they follow the boyfriend. And yes, I'm with the boyfriend too. But at least I spent a gazillion amount of dollars just to get the right information, so I could coach my wife the right way.
Yeah.
Because I contacted some of the famous coaches, or went through the websites, or did consultations just to get the information. Yeah. Because I didn't want to turn my wife into a man. But I see that right now, like all the the boyfriends, I think they have the knowledge. I take tests, or you take tests, but you take less. Yeah, and I heard Primo is good. 25 milligrams of Primo every day.
They use Primo a lot, don't they? Primo is pretty.
Yeah, Primo is very popular, and then it's not Primo; it's actually Masteron. So that's why they look so. That's why they look so lean.
That's incredible. Okay, now since we're talking about hormones, let me ask you something. Recently, there's been and I texted you about this, but I want you to tell the audience, what is this? Because I'm getting questions. I think you're getting the questions too. What is the DECA only? Yeah, what is this DECA only situation?
So we're gonna take a little time machine here. It was popularized by Tian Clark. But I feel that he got the idea from Apollo, which was posting on the GH15 message board. And he was being coached by Kevin Levrone at that time. And he was posting his DECA only cycle. So he did 4 weeks on DECA. And then he was off for 2 weeks. And then he did 4 weeks on DECA again, which is not enough time to taper the DECA off, right? Well, I'm not sure if you got the idea from there or if you just went through, the old school stacks, but that's the first time I saw it. It was Apollo was a competitor. He looked great, a classic physique, but back then it was no classic. Great physique. Awesome guy.
Which year was this on the forums? Before it was open to public, or when it was?
First year of GH15. Yeah, I signed up right after it opened, when GH15 was left after Get Big. So, Apollo was there, and I'm still in touch with Ergo. Do you know Ergo, one of them old moderators?
I remember seeing his name.
That guy's awesome, man. I love David. He's great. He's the only guy that still motivates me to train hard. He's like 55 and he trains balls to the wall.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
Had some great people on it, really.
Yeah.
I never posted. I just read. I mean, I posted.
Yeah, I posted a little bit, but not that much. So I interact with David Ergo, but Apollo was the first guy who heard about it, and then Tian and Clark joined a little bit later, and he mostly talked about nutrition and hair loss and that kind of stuff. So he was very knowledgeable. Yeah, I was very knowledgeable at that time. Yeah.
Tianan was on GH15?
Yeah, also. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Just as Tianan with the camel avatar. So I remember reading some of his stuff about blood work and about micronutrient deficiencies and all that stuff. And it surely inspired me to look into that further. So he's basically the proponent of the DECA only cycle, and he's got a huge following. And he mostly caters to the guys that get hair loss or acne or gynecomastia from testosterone. So they're both basically the guys that they have the genetic lottery, that they get too much side effects from superphysiological dosages of testosterone, or they're already balding or already, from their natural state. So he offers an alternative, which is DECA only. The downside of DECA only is that it crushes your estrogen levels, which then reduces the anabolism and the neuroprotection, the cardioprotection, a whole list of estrogen benefits that you get from, having normal serum estrogen levels. So when I did DECA only, I had it to supplement with DHEA.
You did do DECA. I've never done that.
I've done it twice. One time DECA only was a gram of DECA for like 8 weeks, and then the second time I did it DECA and boldenone.
How did you feel on the DECA only?
I get the same amount of anabolism that you would expect from a similar dose of testosterone. I was a little bit more watery. My blood work was a little bit worse in some aspects and a little bit better in other aspects. But I didn't feel good.
Wait, was something better? What was
like the HDL and the LDL was lower on DECA because the estrogen was lower, right? But my liver enzymes were better, even though I was using DECA organon, which is built in arachi's oil, which increased my inflammatory markers. So that's why I stopped using it, because I don't like the inflammation. Even though DECA organon has arachi's oil, which is pharmaceutical grade, some people don't respond well to that. So I used, and it was 10 freaking cc's, that you have to inject every week because it's 100 milligrams per milliliter. So the arachi's oil increased my C-reactive protein levels to 5 or 7, even though I was on curcumin and, all the things that would lower inflammatory markers. So it was too high for comfort. And, emotionally, I didn't feel good. Yeah, sorry.
Your HDL and LDL both went, you mean that the HDL went down and the LDL went up?
No, the LDL went down also.
Oh, so they both went down. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a similar supplementation protocol for estrogen stuff. So my cholesterol, my HDL, my LDL were lower, as well as my estrogen was basically, like 12 picograms per milliliter. And then I added in the DHEA on top, 25 milligrams, and then it went up to like 20 or 22. So in hindsight, I should have started with 25 or 50 milligrams of DHEA, or maybe add pregnenolone on top. Again, it was all part of the experimentation process. And then I did it another time just to try. It was like 600, 700 DECA and 700 boldenone, something like that. And that made me feel worse. So it was like 6 weeks or 8 weeks also. Yeah, just to try it,
But can I ask you, were you at all interested in women while on the DECA only? Or was it, or not even interested, but were you able to function at least?
Yeah.
For me, I get in a bad mood with DECA, even though I'm not interested.
No, I was still interested. Yeah. 6 didn't take a beating. Yeah, 630. I was always in a calorie surplus in both situations, so that helps. You get a decent
amount. Like normal.
Sorry?
Were you taking Cialis? Because you
yeah, but it does increase your libido. It increases the pumps and the erections when stimulated. So the libido was just fine. I just didn't feel like a man. I just didn't feel manly. I didn't have that positive aggression, that go-getter attitude that you would have from testosterone. Because I had that when I was natural, on 100 milligrams of natural testosterone per week. And then when you go to 1,000 milligrams of testosterone per week, yeah, you feel 10 times better. So it's I've seen the clients, I've seen the Tiana's clients, and I know Jordan Peters runs DECA only, and of course he needs it because he trains, the way he trains, he needs all that support and protection. And the amount of androgens that he takes, he probably doesn't want to take aromatase with that, because of the conversion will be so much. So in his case, it makes sense, but in my case and many of other people's cases, it doesn't make sense. But he does get good results with his clients. Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen the pictures. They look great, or at least the ones that I've seen, they look great.
So what would these people take? Like a couple of grams of DECA and is it just DECA? Or
maybe DECA and D-ball, or just DECA only, or do a DECA cruise. It depends on the person. And some guys want to push a little bit harder. I know he's a proponent of growth hormone, insulin, and micronutrients and that kind of stuff. I mean, he's not very public. He just sticks to the forums and his private group. He's not really on social media much, like YouTube or Instagram. And I could be completely wrong because I've never signed up to his Facebook group, so I'm not exactly sure what he does. But it appears to work for some people, and it appears not to work for other people. Like, it worked for me, but I didn't feel good, and I get great results from testosterone, and I don't experience the side effects that some of the other guys do, like hair loss. I mean, this is completely self-induced, so And then, of course, like high doses of testosterone can cause issues, and high doses of nandrolone can cause issues. And there's several studies supporting either or. In the end, it just comes down to preference, I guess.
The one thing I would just, by the way, we invited Tyan, one of my people who follows my channel invited Tyan to the podcast, but didn't get a good response. So he's not going to be on, but we invited him to talk to about it because people keep asking him about the DECA only thing. So I said, I'll ask him myself, what's the rationale before I offer my opinion. But
he did. I think the only video he did was with Tony, or a phone call. Yeah, and that's how it got popular, because Tony brought it to the forefront when he was in Phuket, I think, a couple of years ago, and he did a phone call with Tiana Clark, and he talked about it for about 20 minutes, and then it went viral. As viral as it can be in the bodybuilding industry.
Well, let's make some notes. So, you felt fine, you say. I mean, you didn't feel great, but you were able to gain muscle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just the same amount of muscle you would normally get. And I enjoyed the padding, strength-wise. But the strength is about this. It's difficult to really pinpoint, because your body keeps changing every time you take hormones. My digestion was fine. My strength was fine. The anabolism was fine. I was a little bit more watery, and I felt a little bit less manly. So that was, and the C-reactive protein increases, because the other options will be underground labs. So that would even increase my C-reactive protein levels even more because of the ethyl oleate or propylene glycol, whatever carrier oils they use. So the only option I had was deca-organon. And it's pharmaceutical grade, but it still increased my inflammatory markers. So all things considering, I decided that it was not for me.
No, it's good you did do that, and I will mention why in a second. But I don't understand why the hair loss is less of an issue with DECA. It doesn't make sense to me because
androgenic alopecia responds well to DHT, and testosterone converts to DHT, and the DHT causes acne and hair loss and prostate enlargement and aggression and deepening of the voice.
True. But the reason
so on DECA you don't get that. The anabolic rating is a little bit higher.
That's true. So basically, obviously, DECA is less androgenic than testosterone, but by the way, so DHT is more androgenic. It has more affinity for the androgen receptor,
right?
DHT than testosterone, and Trenbolone, by the way, I'm sure, although I haven't seen research on this, has more of an affinity than DHT. And the only time, for example, I ever saw shedding of my hair, serious amount, was when I was 22. My first cycle, I was using real, very, very powerful hormones, and I took a lot of this Trenbolone, and within a couple of weeks, my hair looked very different. It went back to normal. It went back to normal afterwards when I stopped. But immediately shed it. Anyone knows that you can feel from the trembolone, the aggression, all that. That's a lot.
Oh, you feel the androgenicity from the first injection, man.
Well, you know that, right?
Cleansing your jaws.
Exactly. And even your face looks more masculine. Everything, your beard gets thicker.
I'll give you a funny example. So on Trenbolone, I would never be able to wear earphones because, when you put your finger, everybody can try this at home. You put your finger in your ear and you clench your jaw. You'll feel a little muscle there, right? And Trenbolone is so androgenic that muscle would grow. And every time I would do a working set, my jaw would clench and this would fall out. Unbelievable. Yeah. And I'm not the only one that happened to. That's why another reason why one of these pro guys, they wear headphones. They wear the headphones because they can't put the thing. Yeah, it's so much androgenicity in their jaw.
That's true. So, but the one thing I wanted to say, just for the viewers out there that want to try Deca only, because I didn't do this research myself, but because viewers have been asking me about different health outcomes in regard to androgens, I don't use androgens anymore myself. I'm not really interested in it. But the reason, all I wanted to say is that every study I've read shows that nandrolone specifically, because nandrolone is the most studied steroid after testosterone.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a lot of there's not many studies on steroids in the first place. But
I try to look for human studies, but you only find rodent and rat.
Even rodent, there's not many. So but just so you guys know, the most studied ones are after testosterone is nandrolone, and then stanozolol, and then also oxandrolone, not oxandrolone, anadrol. So, and a little bit of oxandrolone, but not as much on the rodent study. So all I wanted to say was that in all cases, so testosterone, like the way Steve does it, is not always toxic to cells if you let it aromatize enough. So in the neurons in the brain, if you add an aromatase inhibitor, which Steve usually doesn't do, he uses calcium and other kind of that.
No, it's only on a cruise, but on a higher dose of testosterone, I definitely need aromasin. But I keep my estrogen at the top or even over the range, because of the benefits.
Exactly. But so
the milder one,
Yeah, and you explained why perfectly in one of your videos. I thought the best explanation I ever heard of aromasin versus Rimadex. But so basically, we know that extensive studies on neurons in petri dishes show that if you apply testosterone to the neurons and you don't apply an aromatase inhibitor, it's not
toxic.
It's not toxic until you add the AI. Until you add the AI. Once you add the
because you get the neuroprotection from estrogen, right? Yeah, exactly. Until you reduce you take the estrogen away. Yeah.
Exactly. Unless you go at an extremely high dose, then it becomes toxic even without the AI. Now, when you add nandrolone in, it's toxic at a low dose, at a medium dose, and at a high dose. And it's the same with the kidney. Every dose level of nandrolone kills cells in the kidney. Other than causing the hypertrophy of the kidney, it's
I think it was also shown with Trenbolone, right? Similar results were regardless of dose, it was neurotoxic.
I mean, I haven't read those studies, but I'm quite sure it would be the case. Yeah. Nandrolone for sure. So this comes back to the bioidentical hormone theory of Steve, which there is very much good reason to say. Somebody might tell you, bioidentical hormones, Steve, well, nandrolone was invented to be less harmful than testosterone. Well, if you think that, go look at the studies and you'll find that nandrolone is cytotoxic across any studied area of the body.
I got a little secret. Testosterone was invented millions of years ago, and it's completely natural. And not only humans have it, but other animals have testosterone as well. So you can't get any more natural than that. That's why I like bioidentical hormones, because your genetic makeup knows how to deal with it, even at a surplus.
Yeah, and what many people don't realize about nandrolone is, and not just nandrolone, but testosterone also, is that testosterone doesn't just agonize the androgen receptor. It also, for example, agonizes the progesterone receptor, but just very weakly. Very weakly. But nandrolone agonizes the progesterone receptor 6 times more than testosterone.
And produces prolactin as a result, and then of course, high levels of estrogen would exacerbate that. That's why they do the DECA only cycle, because you don't see so much prolactin increase because the estrogen is so low. But again, you need the estrogen in range because of all its benefits, including anabolism.
That's very true. And one of the interesting things is once you agonize the progesterone receptor, you upregulate estrogen receptors in the body. A consequence of agonizing progesterone is an automatic upregulation of estrogen. That combination together causes the prolactin usually.
Yeah, right.
But what I was going to say is, by the way, did you know that not Ment, the one that Tony Hughes was into, but some very close derivative of Ment, almost similar, identical, is actually the most, it agonizes the progesterone receptor more than progesterone, which I was shocked. Yeah, I have to find the name.
Is that a metabolite of Ment or?
No, it was a
chemical precursor. Yeah, sure.
It's not a precursor or a metabolite. It may be a metabolite, but it's a very similar molecule that was also in production historically.
All right, and it got discontinued. Yeah, I don't touch any of these discontinued steroids because there's a reason why they got discontinued. You know, and then people still want to use it. Yeah, DHP, Ment, check drops. It's just you're begging for side effects. What are you doing?
Yeah, I've heard you to say that before on your video.
I don't get it, man. But people are looking for the secret, dude. But the secret is just a monotony.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
you know,
I want to ask you something. So we get, I went to your frequently asked questions video the other day, and I was watching. No, it was a live stream. I watched like 5 minutes, and then I realized, wait a minute, he's getting the exact same questions they asked me, even though I'm not about bodybuilding or stuff, but still they asked me the same question. So I said, you know what? I thought it would be funny to ask Steve, which are the most annoying questions that you get asked frequently? So,
Proviron.
What do you get asked about Proviron?
Just how to use the Proviron best dose, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a useless compound, but people keep asking about it.
On cycle, it is useful for
it's useless on any scenario because it binds to the sexual binding receptor complex, right? It takes its place. It has no anabolic effect, maybe a little bit of an androgenic effect, you know. Yeah. And so you're taking the place of testosterone, and now testosterone can't go into sexual binding globulin and attach to the sex hormone binding globulin receptor complex, which nobody knows about because on the message board to say free testosterone is the best testosterone, but you know, you got albumin and sexual binding globulin, and sexual binding globulin actually delivers testosterone to tissue and activates the androgen receptor through other pathways. And then you have estrogen increases androgen receptor binding affinity. So just make sure estrogen, sexual binding globulin, and testosterone is all in range, and you're anabolic as fuck.
That's interesting. The estrogen increases the androgen receptor. It modulates it some way.
It increases the binding affinity. So now the testosterone is inside the estrogen longer and pumps out more. You know, the androgen receptor goes into the nucleus, right, and then attaches to the DNA, RNA. So you know, you can sit there for hours, and then at one point it results in protein. So the more protein you get for one molecule of testosterone, the better, the more anabolic it is, right? Because it's the protein that gets folded into new machines, or it gets folded into, you know, whatever it's promoting, you know.
But let's add a caveat.
That's what you want.
For somebody that's natural, a Proviron can be really mood enhancing and can increase sexual desire. If you're not,
but so can boron. But Proviron is a hormone, and by taking it, you're no longer natural. Yeah, boron. Boron lowers sexual binding globulin. Also, it regulates it. And not everybody will see that, but it just helps regulate sexual binding globulin levels from the liver production.
But does it have a similar mood enhancing effect? Did you try it before?
You know, like my guys, some of the natural guys that they contact me for their first cycle and they say, you're not ready, give it, you know, or you work your way up to 90 kilos and we can talk, you know, for example.
Yeah.
And then 9 out of 10 will fall off, but the one guy that wants to stay, okay, we put him on, you know, zinc, magnesium, vitamin D3, ashwagandha, you know, for the cortisol suppression, which might increase testosterone levels, and boron. And they get better workouts. So they don't notice a mood increase, but they notice better anabolism because they burn through all the testosterone increases that a little bit of supplementation, you know, induces. And their free testosterone levels might not go higher because you burn through it more. You get more muscle, you get more androgen receptors, you get more recovery capability. So the testosterone is no longer in the blood, it's actually in the muscle cell doing what it's supposed to do. You can go by blood work, but numbers in the blood work, everything you see in the blood work is not active. Everything.
I'm going to look into the boron. I appreciate this reference. Yeah. I never thought about it.
When you look at the HDL, right? The HDL, when it's in the blood, it's not active. The HDL needs to attach to a cell and transports cholesterol in from one place to another place. And it's the same as the LDL and the free testosterone. In the blood, it doesn't do anything. It needs to attach to an androgen receptor. So
But the thing about it, no, I have to tell you, I don't mean for naturals that want to go into bodybuilding. What I mean to say is like for myself right now, I haven't done it. I've been off any hormone for a year and a half. But if I really wanted, I have too many things to enhance my mood. So there's no reason to use the hormone. But if I wanted to, Proviron would always put me in a slightly aggressive mood. I'm talking about for cognition, not for anything. It puts me in a slightly aggressive mood and can make you a little bit more horny. It's a nice.
Well, it's still a DHT, right? So it increases free testosterone. It displaces testosterone in the sexual binding globulin, and it attaches to the androgen receptor also. But it has no anabolic benefit.
No anabolic benefit.
Right. So if you're a bodybuilder and you're going on cycle and it's taking the place of sexual binding globulin, which could actually deliver testosterone and potentiate its effects for anabolism, you're just wasting hormones. Plus, by going on cycle, your sexual binding globulin will go down anyway, and your free testosterone will be as high as it possibly could be, unless you're doing something weird to your liver and your albumin goes sky high. Which nobody ever checks, right? Oh, the sexual binding globulin is low, I'm good. Yeah, but your albumin might go up as a return. Look at the total picture, guys. It's, people want to sound smart, but they don't see the total picture.
I've never even heard of someone taking Proviron on a cycle. I've just heard of people doing it on TRT or.
There's so many guys on cycle. They want to reduce their sexual binding globulin. They'll notice the first 4 weeks that their sex drive goes up and then it goes down.
Yeah.
Because now the sexual binding globulin is completely gone.
Well,
it's like below baseline.
I have to tell you about one thing, the ashwagandha, because my main interest other than longevity is cognitive enhancement.
Right.
For a couple of reasons. I had the brain damage when I was younger, but also I have, naturally I'm an anxious person and I always wanted to have the best kind of life. I know you have a similar kind of personality type, a little bit of anxiety like me.
Yeah.
Not too much, but the point is, so I'm very into that, and that's my hobby. I really study that stuff a lot. I've noticed that although many people say there are drugs or supplements that can lower cortisol, all of the studies I've read, every single one shows a decrease in cortisol that's acute. But then if you use it consistently for 2 months, the decrease in cortisol
will just come back up, right?
So the body adapts. You can use it for short term, very helpful for the short term. And then the same.
I've been using it for forever because I just keep using the same stuff, right? But I should take it out, see if I notice a difference. But it's all part of my sleep stack, It's like melatonin, ashwagandha, sometimes GABA, and serotonin. And then the sleep quality that I get from it is great.
That's where I got a question about ashwagandha and 5-HTP. It came from.
Yeah, this is the funny thing about the audience, right? They'll hear something on my channel and they go to your channel and verify it. Yeah.
About this, huh?
Yeah. It's so weird, I would wish people would try to research a little bit more,
at least I heard this from Vigorous Steve. What do you think? Instead of just bringing the exact same thing, but anyway, let me tell you something. I think it's still a lot of good reason to use it, although I'm very suspicious about the research in it, because all of the research done on ashwagandha is from India, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just usually there should be some diversity in where it's researched, and sometimes when a herb is from one culture, they think a lot of it. So, for example, saffron, which is one of my favorite supplements at the moment from Iran, almost all the research is from Iran, but there's some Western stuff. But But the ashwagandha clearly has other benefits, so I don't think there's a reason not to take it every night. There's
all these little herbs, just like ashwagandha, citrus bergamot, astragalus or astragalus, however you want to pronounce it, fish oil. All these, you're just all around health supplements, ubiquinol, and you just take them.
Yeah, exactly.
I got like on a Facebook group like a year-round supplement stack that is like 15 supplements or something. And I just take it the whole year, and I feel great. My blood work is decent. It's not perfect, but it's decent, and I feel good. I mean, what more do you want?
And for anyone who's listening to this that doesn't think the power of supplements have a lot of power, it will lower your C-reactive protein. You will see it. You will feel different. The oxidation, you're giving your body better ability to deal with oxidants, either through the actual molecules from the supplement or because they upregulate glutathione or something.
The pathways, and you just keep taking it, and you spend a little bit more money. But when you look at it this way, healthcare is not preventative. So when you're sick, you can use the healthcare system, but you can't use it preventatively. if you have a healthcare system, you know, so you can't go in for blood work every month and say, hey, I need another checkup just to see that I'm okay. They don't want you to do that. No, they don't want you to do that. So you're spending some extra money on supplements, which is going to save you money later on by not, you know, getting into terrible states of health.
And you were mentioning before in one of your videos that you spend more on supplements than you do on hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't spend on hormones, but I spend, let me tell you something. So I've had YouTube ad revenue for 1 month now. And this ad revenue does not cover my probiotic supplements.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. The ad revenue of YouTube is not that exciting, but it's just an extra thing. So it's maybe 1 bottle of citrus bergamot, you know?
Yeah. No, mine's a bit more,
but it helps.
But it's not like, people don't realize I spend probably almost $200 a month just on probiotic supplements.
$250 on all my supplements.
This is on probiotics without the others. I take like
why so much probiotics?
Because I have Crohn's disease.
Okay, so you need it. Yeah, you need
it. I take a very advanced, the most complex, you know, and I don't know much about them. Don't get me wrong, but nobody knows much about the microbiome. But I'm thinking.
But hey, yeah, no, that's completely misunderstood, man. It took me 5 years just to fix my own microbiome after traveling for a year, you know, and completely ruining it with street food. So it's, supplements, and that's the stuff that keeps you alive. And a little bit of hormones that you take, they make you huge if you train and eat right, obviously. But, you know, I mean, 1 ampoule of testosterone and 2 ampules of Primo per week. I mean, I'm 225 pounds after a fast. I was 240 pounds. It's 240 pounds, 245 pounds before starting the fast, and I eat a ton of food. 1 ampoule of test, 2 ampules of Primo, 2 units of growth hormone, and 10 units of Lantus.
That's a good.
And I'm growing. So it's not like I'm maintaining. No, I'm growing, guys. I'm growing in a calorie surplus. Yeah, I'm getting fatter. Okay, big fucking deal.
Okay, so look, I think I took a lot of your time. I don't want to tire you because I want to come back on the show. So
sure, yeah, of course.
We ran out of. We have so many more questions for next time. I'll add a couple more. And I gotta, you know, Steve. Really, I gotta remind the audience. You're the most analytical bodybuilding coach I've come across. Really,
not that much, but I just like to learn, just like you. I like to learn and figure things out and how it works. And I enjoy the handicap of using the least amount of hormones and get the most amount of results for it. Yeah. Whereas, you know, because the hormones at one point are going to make you sick, and you can't take as many anymore. So I just try to handicap myself by not taking too much. And yes, I've took 2,000 milligrams of testosterone too. Blood work was still acceptable, but I was in a calorie deficit. You know, so I always told people, listen, if you're in calorie surplus and you eat right, food is the most anabolic thing, and the anabolics that you inject don't need to be that high. And find the synergy, you know, and use the hormones that make you feel good. But like you and a decent amount of the audience, we just like to learn, and figure things out and see how everything works without putting ourselves in freaking hospital.
By the way, does Derek from More Plates, More Dates, does he coach also or no?
No, and I wish he did, because he's quoting a lot of studies, right? And it's a great source of information. But you know, I talk with him frequently. Actually, I'm getting sponsored now by Gorilla Mind, which I should announce today. Yeah, so I'm bored.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm bored with Derek's team. So I told him, said, you know, I sometimes he promotes a study, right? And I go through all the blood work that I have from all my clients. I'm like, that's not true. Not from all the blood work that I have, and I let him know. And it's just a study, and it's performed on 10 people. That's why, you know, as a bodybuilder, you don't really go by studies anymore, because you know that the blood work from your clients tell a different story. And of course, the blood work from your clients is bodybuilders, whereas the people that got study in a study, they're usually non-bodybuilders, or they're moderately active, or, you know, a different demographic.
Well, it's also just the sample size. I mean,
sample sizes.
10 means nothing. 10 means nothing. In fact, there's a law of statistics across all studies. If you have less than, I can't remember the number, I think 29. Any 29, if N is less than 29, it can't become statistically significant.
Ah, really?
Even if it's 10, it doesn't matter.
Because I just said 1,000, you know, because then you need 10 people for 1% deviation. Like
It's
when I see
more
it,
than that, but below 29 or
yeah,
whatever the number was, I can't. It's been years since I used to work, but
yeah.
you can't even have it's just meaningless. Like,
No, because when I did statistics in school, they said you need a sample size of 100 people, otherwise it doesn't count.
yeah,
So you go, you do your questionnaire, right? And you go stand in the street, you start asking people, and nobody wants to do it. So you get 50 people, and the other 50 you make up by yourselves. It's a school.
I have
It's
years
just a
doing
school.
this. But not making it up. I didn't make it up like you. But I had
No, I did, man. I didn't have time to stand in the street for days on end because nobody wanted to fill out my questionnaire. So, but
our
you need
university
it.
to pay. You'd pay the £10. It was in London for
Oh,
people to
right.
come in. So we used to get it easier.
This was when I was like in middle school, when you're like 12 years old and then you have to do a sample size of 100 and then nobody wants to, nobody has time to fill out your 20 questionnaire. So, you get 50 people and then the other 50 you fill in at home because it started to rain and you don't want to go another day, So, but I remember that the sample size had to be 100. So, so my statistical analysis was completely deviated, of course.
But you're right; it's completely true. But the point is, 10 is never. You cannot get anything significant out of it.
But most of these studies are done on 10, 20 people or rats.
That's why I look at the rat studies, with the rodent studies more, because it's.
But even that, I mean, how similar are we? Their metabolic rate is completely different.
There are a lot of differences, but there are some things you can. I mean, think of it this way: all of our science is based on rodents. Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, without rodents, there would be no metformin. There would be nothing.
No, right.
So, but anyway, I want you to make me one last promise. So, Derek was one of the first people to agree to be on the podcast, but I asked him one more time. He was still busy, and then I feel shy to ask him. So, since you're with Gorilla, gonna be soon with Gorilla, you have to pressure him a little bit. Tell him Leo really wants you on the podcast, and the fans are always asking for him to come. And in fact, today someone on Instagram commented on his thing saying, come. So we really want him to come. We don't have debates on this channel. We're only between friends. So, you got to ask him to come on. It would be great.
Sure, I'll pass on the message. But I've been trying to get Derek on a phone call for months now. And we only do text. Yeah. It's some guys are just, everybody has their preferred method of communication, right? And like same as some of the guys like Dante Trudel, for example, never done an interview in his life. Yeah, but it's not because he's shy, Just some people don't. But he did a podcast by himself, but it was with one of the business partners. But I'll send on the message. See if you can.
On Intense Muscle forums.
Yeah, but I never registered because I was too intimidated.
Yeah, and I didn't register either. But I was
just reading.
The dog section.
Yeah, I found it in 2004.
I was there 2005 and 4.
Yeah, so but just when it started the inception, and I hold Ken Skip Hill to the highest level of, and most people don't know about it, but Ken is Ken Skip Hill and John Meadows and Scott Stevenson and Dante Trudel. They're the godfathers of internet bodybuilding.
I mean, I did.
You might not agree, but there's some bro science in there. Yeah, but look at the bigger picture. I mean, these guys paved the way for internet bodybuilding. And for coaching and that kind of stuff, and then and it was all through the forums, The
only this is the main issue. We have to close it, but the only thing I want to say, it's not a disagreement about any particular science or anything like that. My issue is when somebody has a dogmatic approach. So, for example, they say, "This is the way. I know the way. Follow this. This is how you get huge. This is how you get healthy. This is how you stay healthy." You don't take this approach. Whenever you talk about things, you say, I've read this about this supplement, I'm trying this one, and you use a scientific approach, which is I could change my mind in a year if I find something else out. But
I change my mind all the time.
But if you take the dogmatic approach, you get much more customers, you get more clients, because people want assurance. They want you to tell them, I know exactly what I'm doing. Follow me, I know the way.
I'm the leader,
Exactly. So that's whenever I sense someone that has a guru kind of dogma with him, then I get because it's like a religion.
That's only Dante.
Yeah, I'm talking about Dante, not anyone else. No, I'm talking about
Dante. is a little bit dogmatic, but on the other hand, I mean, his methods have worked for hundreds of thousands of people.
No, I hired one of his sub coaches when I was 2005 for a while. It definitely works, but that's all it is.
But what happens is, some of these guys, they get raised to like a legendary status, and I see that you see that with a lot of YouTubers also. They believe the hype a little bit too much. I'm not saying that Dante is believing the hype too much. Please, Dante, don't kill me.
No, you respect Dante. I know you like that.
I love that guy, man. He started following me recently, so and I'll never have an easy workout after this. No, but it's when your audience respects you a lot and follows your advice and tells you you're great, it's you're one-upping each other, right? You're constantly one-upping each other, and yeah, it's a very good contribution to the sport, for sure, and he's helped a lot of people. But it could definitely be less dogmatic, yeah, because there's like some of the supplements didn't work, and maybe some of the training methodologies didn't, like the extreme stretching, for example. Yeah, it was very popular in the beginning, but almost nobody incorporates them anymore.
Well, I did that a lot, and I discovered that it doesn't work. So that's one of the
Yeah, I did it for a whole year post-workout, extreme stretch or in between sets, and I found that it didn't give me any benefit. I found that deep tissue massage therapy gave me way better benefit.
The one like that with the bar.
Yeah, I tried it, and also another problem with progressive overload is that a lot of people start to cheat their reps, or they start resting mid-set, and sorry, Dante, but you're falling in this category. When I see the guy leg press, it's not the cleanest, smoothest reps.
Yeah,
sorry to say it. I do only 6 reps and he does 20, but they're not the cleanest reps. And then don't talk about injury when some of the reps are not with the greatest form, So, and some of the followers like Dusty Hanshaw, he's got perfect form, but he doesn't do any rest pause. Also, he doesn't do any of the extreme stretches, but he does follow a DC split. So everybody has to personalize it for you. So whatever worked for Dante. But the full Dante Trudel protocol works for a lot of people, but not for everybody.
Yeah, it's not about that.
The world like ketogenic diet doesn't work for everybody either. Same with high carb or low carb or high volume training. There's a million ways to get the ROM, and all that matters is that you get the ROM healthy.
Yeah.
And the good thing about Dante is that he's very health conscious.
Yeah. I will reserve.
But I will say one thing. I remember reading the the messages, right? And back then, the dogma was force feeding, and it doesn't matter what calories. Yeah, but that was 15 years ago, right? And that was just force feeding, chicken wings, and this kind of stuff. Just get the calories in, And now, 15 years later, it's about cardiovascular disease and a little bit more better on the nutrition and that kind of stuff. So everything changes, but you can't hold on to a certain standard when your standard is valid today, but maybe not tomorrow.
Yeah,
I know.
But in general,
Dante, I love you, man. You're the best.
No, he really does. That's why I'm not saying anything, because out of respect for your love for Dante, I'll just be quiet.
Yeah.
So I know you like.